Rolling Warren? Oh my God.
Great. Were you really? Oh no.
Oh God.
That's now you actually could send it to people.
Yeah.
Great.
Evil. On that note,
Hi. Welcome back to Splice Splatter.
Where we just got blackmailed.
By Warren.
The show brought to you by the Jean Cocteau Cinema. I'm doing that now. We're classic horror.
Meets modern gore.
Oh my God, I love it.
Why did you do that?
Let's keep it. I'm Siena. No, just kidding.
I'm Al.
I'm keeping that. We're going with it.
I feel like
what,
about
it's a Friday.
The chaotic energy we're bringing in today.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
'Cause we have so
many
notes. I messaged
Yep.
you.
Yep.
When was it? Or when I saw you.
Tuesday?
Yeah, and I was like, I have
16 pages.
I have 17.
Oh my
I cut
God.
it. I cut them off, guys.
At the time, we both had 16.
We
and we
did.
were like,
yeah.
because that's the most I've ever had.
Oh, wildly
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Which I knew it's Alien. There's going to be so many stories.
It's my
about
first.
it, but-
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not surprised because it is such a staple.
Yeah.
Nope, I'm not surprised either. I don't know how much. If anyone's a fan of Jordan Peele or Nope or anything,
Yeah.
as you all should be.
There's
So many things out there. So
genius.
I really had to. It was
Yeah,
hard to narrow down.
I was thinking, I went into prepping my notes for this episode being like, between the two of ours, because Alien is such a classic, that's
Yeah.
probably going to be the bigger chunk of the episode. And now
And then
after
you've heard
having
me.
watched Nope,
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
It's.
I just want to get to your section.
It's. Oh my God. I love that. Oh my God.
yeah.
Do we do we just talk really quick about a
Can,
little
can
bit
we
of a
please?
watch?
Can
Yeah.
we please, just a little bit.
So you hadn't seen.
hadn't seen Nope. I'd saved
Yeah.
it as a treat for myself because I love Jordan Peele.
Yeah. You've seen Us and Get Out, right?
Mhm,
Okay.
I've seen both, and I love both. I know Us is a little bit more divisive. Everybody loves Get Out. I thought Us was fantastic.
Yeah.
yeah, just
Everything he does is perfect.
gold. Yeah, I am obsessed with him. And I knew this one was going to be up my alley just because I knew, and I mentioned this on last episode, I knew a lot of it had to do with early film history, and obviously I'm a big nerd about that. I had no idea.
The core. of-
Yeah.
yeah.
It,
So yeah, what did you know about it?
I knew
Good, any-
I knew that there
Spoilers.
was a violent monkey named Gordy.
Okay. Yeah. They
Um,
marketed with that up front.
Yeah,
so
that was I think very hard not to have spoiled.
Yeah.
I knew that it had something to do with aliens because again, it was marketed with that. And I knew that at some point in it, Edward Muybridge is mentioned, and that's all I knew.
Oh, so you actually.
I managed to go in very spoiler free, and it was
Oh.
an incredible experience because
Yeah.
normally I go in with a lot of spoilers on modern
Especially
movies.
this is talked about.
It's so-
much.
and that's part and I've said I normally don't mind spoilers. This one I could tell because I love Jordan Peele so
Yeah.
much. I was like, I need to keep myself pure
blinders.
for this one. so I actually successfully avoided stuff about it. And
I'm
it,
so happy for you for that.
and because of that, I was so tempted watching to pause and Google stuff, and I was like, you've got to wait for Al. So I'm just
So many
I have
things.
so many questions. There's so much that I want to hear the stories behind, the
I hope I have
backstories.
answers.
Yeah.
There is, I would say, the amount of sources out there. I know on the Blu-ray there is a making of. I did watch some of the making of. There's 1,000,002 articles. Everyone talks about everything. So I do have. I tried to pull the things that I had questions about because again, this is
Love.
one of those movies that has
It's
so many
so
things.
much.
That
Yeah. Which
I will probably skip over someone's favorite tidbit. I'm sorry.
But that's part
But-
of what was so amazing about it is it's bringing in so many different threads and weaving them all together
It's
so
disgusting.
successfully. It is.
Disgusting.
How many different things is this movie about? You could
oh.
name 10 different things
My
as the
themes-
central theme, and they'd all be correct. And
Yeah.
there are so few filmmakers who can pull that off, and I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that makes Jordan Peele so incredible. Is
He's so layered.
it's so layered.
And watching
He's-
rewatching, I noticed stuff this time.
Oh my god, I can only imagine.
And that's why it's my favorite. Even Get Out, I
Yeah.
focus on a different character every
Oh,
time I
yeah,
watch it. To just be
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
the sister's turn, it's the brother's turn,
Mhm.
it's the mom's turn, and
there's stuff to find every time.
yeah,
It's
so
yeah.
good.
Ugh, I just love Jordan Peele. I'm so
Yay.
excited that we're finally.
Okay, I
talking
don't want
about
to
him.
keep talking too much because I just want to tell you all the things.
Yeah,
but Alien,
An Alien, which I know I had said on multiple episodes before that I had not seen this. I
Right.
was wrong, you guys, kind of, but only half
brains,
wrong. I had to confirm this with my mom. it turns out I actually watched only the second half of Alien from immediately post chest burster sequence on when it came on
TV. That's a great
TV.
point to jump in, though. You're kind of just in the action.
Yeah, truly.
It's all set up, character development. Fuck that. They all kind of die.
I was like 11 years old and very sick at the time and like staying home from whatever because of that. I was homeschooled, so I can't say I was staying home from school, but I was like tucked up in front of the TV and like I just because I was like in such a like fever dream state watching it the first time and jumped in halfway through and was so young. In my head, I thought it was like a late 80s like Alien parody or spin-off, like something that was based off of Alien. And then I was watching it and I was like, oh, that was the OG. And so like funny. I had a very confusing watch experience, but I loved it. So I just have to
so funny.
I have to preface by saying I was wrong in saying that I hadn't seen it before, but also when I reached out to my mom to confirm this, it was like, this seems like an insane way to have exposed me to Alien. Is it possible that this is the case
when you're sick?
Well, especially because my mom usually, I've talked about her so much on this podcast. She was very particular about the way she showed me movies and at what time. And so it was like, it seems like a crazy choice for her to have been like, yeah, just throw on the second half.
She was busy that day.
No. Her response killed me. She was like, I don't know, that sounds about accurate. I was probably so grossed out by it that I didn't want you to see the rest because I don't like Alien. And I was like,
funny.
My mom, like who has recommended me multiple movies about cannibalism, thinks that Alien is too gross.
You know, we all have our things. Your mom's this gross, bloody alien. Facehuggers are, they're pretty gnarly, to be fair.
It was the android milk scene that got me and still gets me to this day.
It's my favorite part. Oh, that milky substance coming out of it.
When I read you the list of things that were
wax and then milky substances,
it's actually no wax. It's you mean things that I'm scared of? Yeah, indeed. But the things that went into making that scene, like the ingredients of it are maybe the grossest list I've ever read. So I'm excited for that.
That's fun.
Yeah. What was your watch experience revisiting?
Yeah, this is one of the ones I think, I don't remember when I first saw it. We were trying to figure out like when the last time I watched it was, which it felt recent, but now that I'm like thinking about it, I think it's been like 7 years, but it's one of those movies that kind of like
it sticks with you.
All the characters, I just always forget how young Sigourney Weaver is, so like I just kept screaming babyface.
She's only 28.
Oh my god, she's a baby. Yeah, she's just because she's such sharp features, so seeing her like soft. But yeah, it's, I don't know, I just, there's so many good things. So many characters are so great. I can't get over the sets every time. I'm just like gagged.
Oh yeah, gagged. Which that's, I think, what we're probably going to spend the most time on, because
it's so good. I'm a sucker for space movies. If there is a space movie, I have seen it and it goes on my list of my favorite things ever. I love the idea of being in, it doesn't have to be alien related, but I love the idea of being in space. So like if there is a space movie, I have watched it or will be watching it.
Love.
It's like, I just am so fascinated. So yeah. I don't know. It's just so good, and she's so good, and everyone fucking kills their roles. And the Pretty in Pink dad is like, always was my favorite.
Oh my god, I forgot.
With his Hawaiian shirts.
That's so funny.
The Jonesy scene where he's going to look for the cat. It's always like, that's like, when I think of this movie, I weirdly like, that is what I think of.
That's so funny. Well, I know when I watched it the first time, I think I turned on immediately in the scene of like Harry Dean Stanton like dripping sweat with like the ball cap, with like the rain on it, and like even not having seen it since I was like 11 years old and sick, that scene is just so iconic. Yeah, he's just so sweaty.
I know. Yeah. If you watch Fast and Furious movies, there's one of them where The Rock is like, literally looks like he's like dunked in a bucket, but there's no explanation, and I feel like that's him in this.
Yes, which we're going to talk about. There are sweat stories on this movie that we're going to get into.
Yep, makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a classic for a reason, and it's so iconic. And just coming off of watching Alien Romulus, where there's, I mean, I don't know, there's like a connection. Duh. I don't want
You
to
don't
spoil it 'cause I
say.
realize I don't know if that's a spoiler or not. So there's something that happens that is like a callback to this film
I feel like
specifically.
I probably
Okay.
read about it.
Yeah,
Just say
probably.
it. Just say it.
What's his name? The spoil. Okay, Warren's play his ears. I don't want to say
Okay.
it.
All right.
There's a thing.
We'll preserve
It's
Warren.
a direct callback to this movie
Oh,
specifically.
interesting. Cool.
And so it was kind of fun to watch that and then go right back to the beginning.
And I
So
imagine
it's
that would
fun.
also make it feel more like you'd watched it more
Yeah,
recently too.
yeah.
'Cause you've
So-
been in that world. Yeah.
Anyways, I feel like I don't want to like gush
Yeah.
too much because we have just so
Do
many
you
pages.
have a tidbit to
I
tee us up?
do. I'm gonna have two, so I'll have one for the
Yes.
start of mine.
Excellent.
I don't know if I have time to like play the thing, so I have an audio tidbit. So, it's in 2 points in yours, and it's
Mhm.
not confirmed, but I did play them, so I don't know if I'll maybe leave a pause and we can give the audio to Warren so you all can hear it, and then I'll play it for you on
Did
break.
they sample Alien and Nope?
I think so, or they gave it a nod, and then
That
Jordan
feels
Peele.
very Jordan Peele.
I couldn't find like a confirmation, but playing them next to each other, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, those
I
sound similar.
100% would buy
So
that.
the startup of the computer in the beginning, that
Uh-huh.
like pinging noise, the scene when Jordan Peele, the scene where Daniel Kaluuya's character OJ, is in the barn and he sees the 3 kids. They make that same noise kind of springs
That was
up.
my favorite scene in the movie.
That scene made me almost throw my phone
Yeah.
at the screen
It's
when I watched it. At
the
home.
way it's choreographed between the movements of
And you don't see anything, and then all of a sudden the shadow moves.
it was
I
glorious.
yeah, that scene like
Yeah.
got me the
Yeah.
first time. But if you listen back, those two sound wildly similar. It's not sampled; it is different, but it makes those same pinging noises. So I'm gonna leave like a 2-second pause so you guys can hear it, and then you just have to use your imagination, Sienna. So
Well, and it would also make sense though that the kids in the narrative would be using like a sound.
yeah,
from
they like
Alien.
found something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll leave a pause. I want to put it here. So here's the one from Alien. And here's the one from Nope. And you'll listen
That's
later.
so cool. Oh
yeah,
my God,
so
I love
that's kind of my
that.
like. I read that, and again, not confirmed,
Yeah.
but you'll hear it, and you'll be like,
Oh, I
okay,
love that.
it had to have been a fun little.
That's so cool.
Not so that's my connection between the two.
Well, I
tidbit,
have a mostly confirmed tidbit. This is
Oh,
a
funny,
story
yeah.
about Alien that it's very storied. I found like a bunch of fact checking articles about
Oh,
it. And
nice.
It's gotten a score of mostly true. So
Okay. Yeah,
we're gonna put it
yeah.
that way. Let's see, I want to make sure that I get the scene right. So you know the egg chamber scene,
Yeah.
when you kind of first get to see this alien world. Obviously they're using a ton of lasers to create the light effects in that scene, and those lasers have quite a pedigree because they were borrowed from the rock band The Who.
Whoa.
They were
That's
working
cool.
on the light setups for their tour on the soundstage next door while Alien was shooting, because Alien shot in London. It's American production company, American funding,
Whoa.
mostly American actors, but produced in London, which is
Weird.
interesting because I haven't checked to make sure, but I would guess that it was probably shot at the same studio that 2001 Space Odyssey was shot at,
Got
which
it.
obviously is a huge
Makes
reference
sense.
point for this film.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm sure it's a huge soundstage.
Yeah.
Has to be.
They and I know this is whatever studio this was shot at, there were several different sound stages in a row, because even just the production of Alien took up 3 different sound stages for the 3 levels of the Nostromo.
I mean, yeah, it feels huge. That's so
yeah.
cool.
So, yeah.
What is like a 70s thing?
I
like,
know, to have just
use.
borrowed your lasers from The Who.
Oh, that's cool. That's really fucking cool, actually.
And so
Alien is rock and roll. Got it.
Right? And so as far as the fact checking of that goes, it has been confirmed that The Who was doing their sound check next door at the
Sure.
time, and that they were in contact with each
Yeah.
other. So I think it's pretty safe to say it's a good,
At least something was like crossover.
yeah. Well, and they were cross-referencing with each other stuff about how to do projections, which like projections onto faces, which obviously you see a lot of that when people are using computers and stuff like that. So
Which is so cool.
even if we're not sure that it's the exact same specific lasers, the look of the lights in this film is influenced by The Who.
That's really cool. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
Love The Who.
So with that, let's lead in.
Let's fucking blast off, baby.
Alien, 1979. The winning tagline we're all familiar with: "In space, no one can hear you scream."
The best.
But
One of the best.
there was also, however,
In Scream, no one can hear you space.
if only, it's Alien, the eighth passenger.
The freeloader. The xenomorph. Get a ticket, nerd.
Like, doesn't that sound like that should be the tagline for like Spaceballs, the Mel Brooks movie?
That's a comedy.
Yeah.
That is like then a comedy.
It's Alien, the eighth passenger.
It's Alien, your new BFF. What the fuck was that? Thank fuck that's nowhere.
It's Alien.
Is
He's
that
bursting out.
It's Alien. He's gonna get you.
Oh my god.
Alien, can he drive?
It's Alien. He's a virgin who can't drive. Okay, we're wildly off the rails already.
This is gonna be a 3-hour episode. Everyone,
honestly, I'm down. I'm buckled in.
That's
I'm in my escape pod, ready to
stupid.
go. Ooh. Okay, so this movie is directed by Ridley Scott, who also did the prequels Alien Prometheus in 2012 and Alien Covenant in 2017. And also cam-opped much of the handheld work in this movie himself.
Ooh, that's
and
fun.
a lot of this movie is handheld. So
Damn.
Sir Ridley Scott
me that.
behind the camera for a lot of this, which if you know anything about Ridley Scott, tracks a lot with his personality.
Yeah,
as
that
we're going to
feels
see as
right.
we go through some quotes. He is a very particular man.
Got it.
He also did Blade Runner, he did The Martian, and my beloved Thelma and Louise, which actually I'm wearing part of my Halloween
your
Thelma and
Halloween
Louise
costume,
costumes. So, which obviously we are, or no, I put in my notes we should play Thelma and Louise at the theater at some point. I
for
feel like that seems
That
like a
would
soft
be
butch
good.
blues type of
yeah.
pick. He's also listed as the producer on Kristen Stewart's directorial debut, The Chronology of Water, which I thought was super interesting, especially because between Ripley, Thelma and Louise, and Kristen Stewart's directorial debut, which is a lesbian movie, I feel like that's an awful lot of lesbian adjacent content coming from one straight man.
Oh my god, funny.
Although,
He's an ally.
although I do want to note before we call him an
Horrible
ally
person.
that because of those movies, and particularly because of Thelma and Louise, Ridley Scott gets kind of painted as like a feminist filmmaker in a lot of ways, and I think it's not necessarily intentional, even if I do think like the female characters in his movies are really rich and complex. I don't think that's necessarily coming from Ridley. Particularly, I found an interview with him talking about Sigourney Weaver's casting, which is one of the things that gets him this credit. And he said, quote, "That was a pragmatic move originally. I thought, why not? I've always gotten along with females as friends and equals. I never understood the fuss over what roles they should fill. I never saw it as significant that the hero's a woman. So let's just contextualize that.
You know, buddy, just be like, oh yeah, and that was totally intentional. You
Just
know what I mean?
say-
Just pretend at that point, like unlike what's his name from It
Exactly.
Follows.
Or literally just say Sigourney's amazing and leave it at that.
Just shut your
Just
mouth.
leave it. Just quit while you're ahead.
I think he like thinks he's sound like he's
He
eating
thinks
when
he's
says
sounding
that.
good, yeah.
He's like, no, I don't care. I don't.
Right.
I don't see color. That's what
No,
he's basically
exactly.
saying.
Yeah. I don't even notice that she's a female.
What are boobs?
And that's from a 2003 interview, so it's not like this year, but
Okay.
it's still a long time after the film's release, like 30
That was a rough
plus
time, to be fair,
years.
so.
Which is, I feel like, still long enough to make females extra cringe.
Oh
But
yeah, no.
anyway, so
Yeah.
just
Putting
that's
that out
our
there.
that's
Got
all
it.
of the Ridley Scott context we're gonna get into for this one. I feel like I spent long enough ragging on the director last episode. I don't want to do that again here, especially because this is just such a perfect movie. So screenplay, there's a lot of controversy between the people involved in writing the screenplay over who gets the credit. The actual screen credit goes to Dan O'Bannon, based on a story by O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, his writing partner. O'Bannon's also the EP and contributed the alien embryo exploding from the chest idea. And in a little Our World connection, O'Bannon was also the writer of Dark Star, which we know is one of...
Yeah, we're gonna play it in August.
Yeah, that's one of our anniversary movies that we always
is.
play.
Yeah.
And Dark Star actually is going to play a very significant role throughout this episode. So this is not the last you've heard of Dark Star. However, from there, once the script gets picked up by a studio, two particular studio executives then do a whole bunch of drafts on the script and try to get screenplay credit. It gets contested by O'Bannon and Shusett, and the WGA gets involved, and it gets awarded to them. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that contest, but just keep in mind there's a lot of... O'Bannon in particular is a very salty man. So there's some behind the scenes friction going on. Cinematographer is Derek Van Lint, who also shot Dragon Slayer and the 2000 X-Men, but almost nothing else. And this was his first feature as DP too. He'd mainly done commercial work before that. So
he's done great things,
yeah, for
didn't...
it's bizarre. Like he's got a couple of just incredible projects spaced out over decades and decades with very little in between. It's
I was
really
gonna say, I wonder, what is like,
what
and
happened.
No other crew.
Very little. He has like 3 credits for like Genie, I think, something like that. Like it's not like that's what he was doing in the meantime.
Yeah.
So it's very.
I can imagine
weird.
doing that and then just be like, I'm good.
Yeah, like shooting Alien.
Yeah,
one of the most beautifully shot movies.
Because Ridley fucking took the camera so much, he was like,
honestly,
yeah,
you might be right.
What it's like.
Just turns him off of the entire art form. And as I think we all know, the alien beings and environments and most of the look of this film is designed by H.R. Giger, which I'm terrified that I'm going to mispronounce Geiger on this episode because Geiger counters play a big role in my movie, and so I've been thinking about them a lot. So I'm really sorry if I do that, guys.
If you flip-flop.
If I flip-flop, it's probably going to happen, but I'm going to do my best.
I have some hard names on mine, to be fair, too. So, and I didn't practice.
Fantastic. Love that. We have Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, obviously. This was so early in her career that she was in Annie Hall 2 years before as a character that doesn't even get a name. So that is how early this is in the Sigourney Weaver verse. Yeah. And she was mainly doing stage work at the time. She's now obviously gone on to Ghostbusters, Working Girl, WALL-E, Avatar, Cabin in the Woods. We talked about
that. My irritation with her, she's just popped up everywhere.
That she's everywhere.
I don't have that irritation anymore. I love her.
But after you brought that up, I was thinking about this when I was doing my notes, and I was like, I feel like Sigourney Weaver is one of the very few performers I can think of besides like Leonard Nimoy, who mainly gets typecast for sci-fi. I feel like that's not a thing that you see happen with sci-fi the same way you do with like straight horror. And those are like 2 of the biggest names I can think of, and like besides that,
she is in a lot of like
she's a sci-fi queen.
It's so funny because her performances are so like I don't think of her a certain way,
right?
Because her performances are always so perfect.
But when you look at her career, that's so much of what she's done. It's really interesting. She's also, drum roll please, 6 feet tall.
Why did I not know this?
I know. Yeah, I thought you'd enjoy that. I certainly enjoyed.
Oh my god. Pause for that.
Yeah, which like I bring this up partially because it's important when we get to casting the alien. Because obviously you want that to tower over Sigourney, and when she's 6 feet tall, you've got to cast.
I come from a family of tall women. Like my mom's like I think almost 6 feet. My aunt's definitely like 6 foot. We're tall bitches. So.
Love.
Yeah. But damn. For her to have that career and be 6 foot tall is actually
fascinating, right?
Gina Davis is tall too. Is she?
Yeah, I think she's like 5'10" or 11, something like that. Yeah. So Ridley Scott also casts a lot of tall women. We have Tom Skerritt as Dallas. He was in Top Gun. He was in MASH, the movie, not the TV show. Contact, Dead Zone. He's the police chief in Smoke Signals, so I grew up with him. And he's the motorcycle officer in Harold and Maude. So basically, whatever your favorite movie is, he's played a cop in it.
Funny.
We have Veronica Cartwright as Lambert. She's Kathy in The Birds when she's a little kid. Felicia in Witches of Eastwick. Octavia in Candyman Farewell to the Flesh, which I still need to see.
Yeah, that's the new one.
That's the... I think it's like 98, something like that.
I haven't seen
the
that
third, and we've covered her before as Nancy in the 70s Invasion of the Body Snatchers. If she's looking familiar, that's where it's from. Obviously, her hairstyle is so different in this movie that she really doesn't read to me as the same actress, which I think goes to what a great performance she's giving. But
she's good in this.
She's wonderful. And I think she's great in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, too. I don't think... I think this movie kind of did her dirty, and we're going to talk about why.
Yeah.
We have Harry Dean Stanton as Brett. We talked about him recently on Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me. He's also in Paris, Texas, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Escape from New York. So if it's got a place
Pink.
name in the title,
Yeah.
then he's been in it. We have John Hurt as Kane. He's Winston in 1984, which I'd forgotten about.
Oh.
He was Max in Midnight Express, Gilliam in Snowpiercer, which I love, Christopher Marlowe in Only Lovers Left Alive, which I love, and John Merrick in The Elephant Man, which by the time this airs will have already screened at the theater, unfortunately. But multiple David Lynch collaborators.
Is he the one with the beard?
Yes. Yeah. He's the one who gets chest burst. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We have Ian Holm as Ash, best known as Bilbo from Lord of the Rings, which is like such a wild. What a drastically different kind of character.
Brain not register that.
I know.
He's so
Yeah.
You actually just. Why did I not know that?
Yeah. That's Bilbo fucking Baggins.
That man is transformative in the same way I can't recognize other white men. Like fucking there's a few of those actors I literally can't recognize because their performances
was a big part of my experience when I was 11 watching this. Was like I had really bad white man facial blindness at the time, and I like couldn't tell the characters apart. It was easier for me this time, but not that easy.
I kind of see it, but again, those are wildly different characters, and I don't like look up a lot of people, if I'm honest. But I did not realize
to go from Bilbo Baggins, who's like such a sweet, like
until he does that
charming,
creepy animated face
true.
and the fucking
true, but also like that character I think of as just so like organic, for lack of a better word, and then to be the android in this movie is just. It's wild.
I hate that I did not register. I think I just see him such as that character. Those characters wildly different. I've never thought about that.
What else he's been in that I didn't realize?
I don't want to know now. Yeah, because I feel stupid.
He was Mr. Kurtzman in Terry Gilliam's Brazil. He's Professor Fitz in The Aviator, and he's the voice of Skinner in Ratatouille.
Whoa.
He's in Ratatouille.
We were just talking about Ratatouille before we started rolling. Ew. Weird.
We have Yaphet Kotto as Parker, who, oh my God, I love this man's performance. He is so good.
Is he the funny one?
He's the only black man in the movie, which I also...
he's amazing. All I talked about was his performance and how, like, this time I watched him.
Yeah, that was... I was like, obviously, I love Sigourney Weaver, but I couldn't look away from Yaphet Kotto. And I also...
He stole every fucking scene that he was
He's
in.
a fucking scene stealer. Yeah. And I will say my one and only quibble with this movie, it did Yaphet Kotto dirty in the lighting scheme, which, like, we're going to talk about the lighting. I know this is the 70s. It's a cinematographically difficult set, but oh my God, they let him disappear into the shadows in basically every shot. And his performance is so good. I'm so mad that he's getting like swallowed up. Like, especially
he's still fucking...
He still kills it. He's still like, I can't watch anybody else but him. But especially watching this back to back with Nope, where like obviously Jordan Peele is somebody who thinks so specifically about lighting for black skin and like how to do that in a way that lets the performances shine the best possible. And it really was just like,
in this.
Oh boy, especially, you know, you've got 7 main characters. Only one of them is a black man. He's a very dark skinned black man.
Yeah.
They really lit this movie for Sigourney Weaver and we're like, fuck everybody else.
Yeah.
And it shows. And it, like, to a degree, I understand that, but like, oh my God, give the man a bounce. Come on.
I know. It's
like, just hold a piece of tinfoil. My God.
I was gonna say there's shots where like they're close enough where you could have absolutely lit that correctly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But he was who I watched this entire performance. That's so funny.
Incredible. He's also been in Midnight Run. He was Lieutenant Al on Homicide: Life on the Street for a long, long time. He was Othello in the 1980 Othello, which I now really want to see because I feel like he would fucking kill that. And of course, he was in Live and Let Die too, which is what he got cast in this off of, was playing a Bond villain in that one. And we have 4 identical cats as our beloved Jonesy. I couldn't find the cats' names, which I was really upset about.
I hate when they don't let us know their names.
I tried, y'all. I'm sure if somebody out there knows these cats' names, please write in and let me know because I want to know. If you thought you'd heard The Last of Darkstar, though, here it comes back up again. That film was actually, in a lot of ways, the direct inspiration for Alien, because obviously that one, O'Bannon was working with Carpenter on that. They'd, I think, gone to film school together. But basically, O'Bannon, from working on that project, got the alien bug, wanted to make another movie about aliens, but wanted this one to be the opposite of Darkstar, because Darkstar is a comedy. It's extremely low budget. And it's, you know, the alien in Darkstar is played by a beach ball.
Yeah, I was joking that when we play it, we should paint a beach ball, and
we absolutely should.
That's what we
have a little party. Yeah.
We said that in programming.
But so because of that, O'Bannon had this experience and was like, I want to basically like go back and do it right. Like go back and not to look down on Darkstar, but like I want to go back and
do it this way.
Yeah, see what it feels like going in the opposite genre direction, make it a true horror film, write the script as a horror.
Wow, let's go from a beach ball to the like to this alien.
Yeah.
Form
to a xenomorph. Wild. It's fascinating. Could not be more drastically different. And meanwhile, his collaborator Shusett sees Darkstar, gets impressed by it, reaches out to him, and Shusett is the one who will much later work on Total Recall.
Oh.
So both of them go on to really storied careers, but they decide to work on Alien first. Shusett's already working on Total Recall at the time that they meet, but they're like, okay, we're going to prioritize Alien because this is going to be easier to make and pitch.
Yeah.
So they join forces to work on that. O'Bannon writes like the first 29 pages under the working title Memory, but hasn't yet decided what he wants the alien antagonist to look like. Enter Alejandro Jodorowsky's Dune.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
The famous never-made version of Dune that was going to happen pre David Lynch, which is where O'Bannon meets H.R. Giger, because H.R. Giger was hired for the Jodorowsky version. Talk about one door closing, another opens.
Yeah, I love that.
It's the overlaps between these two films. It's
what a wild
fascinating.
web.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people kind of talk about this as like the film that that version of Dune was supposed to be, like, because so many of the crew went over to this from that.
Didn't know that.
So O'Bannon, kind of looking back on meeting Giger, recalls, quote, "His paintings had a profound effect on me. I'd never seen anything that was quite as horrible and at the same time as beautiful as his work. And so I ended up writing a script about a Giger monster."
Ooh,
so from the beginning, he's writing based on that's who's going to create our alien look, which I loved learning about that. And I was like, this really is like, all due respect to Ridley Scott, this is H.R. Giger's movie. Yeah. Like, this is H.R. Giger's Alien.
Oh my God, can you imagine the compliment of someone like being like, I did this whole thing like around
based
your
around
work.
Yeah, truly
wild.
At a time when they don't know that they're ever going to have an opportunity to work together again. Like that project fell apart in disastrous ways.
Right.
O'Bannon is homeless after it and has to go live on Shusett's couch.
Oh shit.
Because like everybody's lives have fallen apart in the wreckage of Alejandro Jodorowsky's Dune. And everybody kind of comes back together around this script. So it's so beautiful the way this happens. However, let's see. He goes back, he's staying on Shusett's couch, and because of that, he's really motivated to write a script that's going to sell fast to get him off the couch.
Yeah. It's like anything.
Yeah. And so he goes back to the work that he'd gotten done on Memory, those first couple of scenes of the movie. And then Shusett's like, hey, I have this idea about gremlins attacking a World War II bomber. Maybe we take that and use that as the second half of your movie? And so that's where the idea for the second half of Alien comes from, is from gremlins attacking a World War II bomber.
Oh my God.
Which, like, it kind of...
It's a shell of a...
It is.
It's an outline. So,
yeah,
like, sure,
it makes sense.
Sure.
You can see the bones of that.
My
in
brain
what we get.
sees actual, like, Gremlins, the movie Gremlins.
Well, I hear that and I immediately think of the Twilight Zone episode of the, like, Gremlin penguin. Yeah. Which is, like, also just really interesting, too.
Episode or movie? That's in the movie.
Is that in the movie?
Do they also have It's
Is it
both?
both?
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Thank
The
you.
movie, I just think John Lithgow. So, but
yeah. So that's, we get another Gremlins and Planes image. And at that point, they are using the working title Star Beast. Up until O'Bannon finally, thank God, comes to his senses and is like, wait, is that terrible. And so he looks through the script again and is like, gee, we sure do use the word alien a lot in this, don't we? And that's how they end up deciding that that's going to be the title, is they're like, we're using this word more than any other in the script. Nobody's named a movie that yet. And we like that it's both a noun and an adjective. So thank God it's not called Star Beast.
I think the trajectory of like the success would have been wildly shot down.
I don't think we would have gotten the sequels that we would have gotten under the name Star Beast
2.
Bigger and beastlier.
Bigger and beastlier.
Star Beasts.
Star Beasts. Yeah.
Big follow style.
Oh my God.
And in
wild.
One quick little name tidbit about the names of the ships in this movie, both the Nostromo and the Narcissus are references to the titles of Joseph Conrad stories, although the latter shall not be shared on air because it uses the N-word in its title.
Oh my
which
God.
Is part of, just like, yikes.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's
Joseph Conrad.
Information that...
Quite a guy. So that's the complicated naming history behind the ships in this movie.
That's a nice way to put it.
Just putting that out there. Themes, approach, and history. I wanted to start this section off with a really interesting quote I found from O'Bannon, our screenwriter, about horror as a genre, where he says, quote, "You can divide horror movies into two general categories, sadistic or masochistic. In the sadistic films, they invite you to enjoy the mutilation and to empathize with the monster. In the masochistic film, you are invited to empathize with the victim and to not like mutilation. Well, I like masochistic horror films. I make masochistic horror films." And I'm wondering if we agree with that, because I think there's a little bit of both in this movie.
Yeah, that's kind of a wild way to...
It doesn't totally jive to me with the movie that he made, but I think it's a really interesting way of looking at horror.
Kind of, I almost feel like it's the two coming together, but they haven't touched or like decided which one goes down the like tunnel yet.
Totally.
Like I feel like we haven't even gotten to... It feels like it's inching towards, and then
it hasn't chosen yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because like because all of the Giger designs in this movie are so just visually compelling, I think there's a part of you that just wants to see the alien survive and thrive so you can see more of its worlds.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's like, it's not even necessarily that you're empathizing with it as much as it's like, I'm so curious about it that I want more alien.
Yeah. I love that though, that kind of division.
Right?
It is.
There's some validity to it. Yeah. But it's interesting because like I think you could apply that to a lot of films, but not the one he wrote.
Yeah. Yeah. There's other ones where it's very So I don't know. I feel like almost Nope falls in that weird line of which one is it too.
Yeah, I think
it's both survival.
I really empathize with the creature. Like
that's the thing. They're both like these living organisms, and it's like
jean jacket to be okay.
I wore a jean jacket today for a jean jacket. Just
iconic.
But I feel like that one kind of goes of like it hasn't decided quite yet either.
Yeah,
really. It's just I don't know. Maybe other people have like different feelings on these,
True.
but I feel the same.
Morally complex horror movies.
Yeah.
You'd love to see it. And as O'Bannon goes on to put it, talking about the writing process, quote, "I didn't steal Alien from anybody. I stole it from everybody," which I love.
See, that's all you gotta say.
Exactly.
Art like is inspired by other art.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
It's stolen from everybody. And he specifically references The Thing from Another World, Forbidden Planet. A lot of people have drawn comparisons to the Mario Bava movie Planet of the Vampires, which he refuses to admit that he's seen at the time, but has a really similar creature to the space jockey that we see in this. So if you like look at a side by side of them, it's very hard to believe that people working on this at least haven't seen it. Lots of just golden age and atomic age B-movie sci-fi. Tons of literary influences too, including a Clifford Simak short story called Junkyard about a crew of astronauts discovering a chamber full of alien eggs. Philip Jose Farmer's Strange Relations gives him a lot of kind of alien reproduction inspo. There are also a lot of people who've drawn comparisons to a story by A.E. Van Vogt, who we carry at Beastly. We actually just posted a rare book by him.
Which cover was that? The purpley
the one
orange
with the like Gila monster looking dude.
Oh yeah, from the little lizard.
Yeah,
thingy?
yeah.
Oh, funny. That's weird.
So he wrote a story called The Voyage of the Space Beagle, and a lot of people have pointed out similarities to it. Vought actually goes on to sue. The studio settles out of court. So kind of up for interpretation. But early versions also had a lot more in common with the H.P. Lovecraft In the Mountains of Madness, which we also carry at Beastly, and was part of what drew Giger to the project initially, because Lovecraft is one of his biggest sources of inspiration. And so it being this very kind of Lovecraftian story was a lot of what kind of got him hooked. However, O'Bannon keeps struggling with one problem, which is how does the alien get on the ship?
Yeah.
And then Shusett has a brainstorm. Quote, "The creature had to get on the ship in an interesting way. I had no idea how, but if we could solve that, if it can't just be snuck in, then I think the whole movie will come into place. And in the middle of the night, I woke up and I said, Dan, I think I have an idea. The alien screws one of them. It jumps on his face and it plants its seed."
Oh, yeah.
And Dan says, "Oh my God, we've got it. We've got the whole movie."
So that's so funny.
And it sounds almost like it kind of
one of them.
Yeah. It sounds almost like it kind of starts as a joke between the two of them. Of this, like, what if the alien fucks them to get in?
But it's like, oh, that really works. How would you fuck them where it's not silly goofy? Like
And it's genius.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so gross.
So they've got their movie. They take it to studios. They start pitching it as Jaws in space. Go figure. This is the
say that about everything.
Yeah, this is the time
Jaws,
in Hollywood where everything is Jaws. And they're on the brink of signing a deal with Roger Corman, famed B-movie producer. I love his work. But a friend is like, let me try and get y'all a better deal before you sign with Corman. And he passes it on to Brandywine, which at the time has a relationship with 20th Century Fox, who ends up being kind of the parent company behind this. That's great in that it means they get more money. It's terrible in that it means they get a whole bunch of studio execs who do not like sci-fi, who come in to rewrite the script, particularly David Giler and Walter Hill. These are the two who
got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Make a ton of script changes. And as Shusett puts it, quote, "They weren't good at making it better, or in fact at not making it even worse." Which, it's interesting though, because O'Bannon feels differently about at least one of the changes, because the studio execs are the ones who create the character of Ash and the idea of this android on the ship. And that's such a huge plot point that I do think it's good that O'Bannon at least recognizes like that made the movie better.
Right.
I do think that's a really key part of what's so creepy about this story. I think originally, if I'm remembering correctly, they'd been kind of playing with it being the ship's computer, but then they're like, that's too similar to HAL from 2001 Space Odyssey. And so all told, those two EPs do 8 different passes on the script. Wow. Which is a lot. But the WGA still gives Shusett and O'Bannon sole credit. And O'Bannon accuses those two execs of trying to steal sole credit from them, because apparently they went in and changed all of the names from the original O'Bannon script.
And so they were like, it's ours.
Yeah, and so
I believe it.
Yeah.
I hate to say I absolutely believe it.
I 100% believe it. And at the same time, like, thank God they added Ash. That's like a really good, genuine contribution to the script.
Right.
I don't think that's enough to get sole writing credit.
Absolutely not.
So I'm glad that O'Bannon and Shusett kept credit. I do think that the WGA came down on the right side of that one, it sounds like to me. So we've got our studio attached, but 20th Century Fox is still feeling real nervous about funding sci-fi up until Star Wars smashes the box office records and suddenly they can't get enough of it.
Oh, fucking, of course.
Of course. And as O'Bannon says, quote, "They wanted to follow through on Star Wars and they wanted to follow through fast, and the only spaceship script they had sitting on their desk was Alien. A good time to be O'Bannon."
Oh my God. That's wild.
So we're pretty deep into development now and still have no director. O'Bannon assumes that he's getting the job and really wants the job, but they offer it to the executive Hill instead. Go figure.
They never like to give things to writers.
Of course they don't. Who, in a shocking move, that executive actually turns it down because of how much special effects work is going to be required. He's like, I don't feel prepared for that, which, like, props to him for that. You never see studio executives actually admitting that. So thank God. This could have so easily been a case of the executive's ego winning. I'm really glad that's not what happened.
Imagine.
But Ridley Scott is their 5th choice. Other directors, they tried to go after Robert fucking Altman, who did fucking MASH. Nashville, McCabe and Mrs. Miller. Like,
which we also played.
Yeah, it's
Yikes.
a weird choice. That's all I'm going to say about that. But O'Bannon and Shusett are really worried that they're going to end up with a director who's going to treat it like a B movie instead of taking it seriously.
Yeah,
which
it's like a big blockbuster.
Enter Ridley Scott. Scott's first feature, The Duelists, had just come out in 1977. Alien comes out in 79, so you can imagine this is kind of right as this is going into development. People are watching Scott's first feature. And it was a period piece, which is a hell of a swing for a first-time director. The executives see it and get impressed. They make him an offer. Scott snaps it up and immediately starts storyboarding. Those storyboards, he then goes away, I think takes about 3 weeks doing the entire movie, takes it back to the production company, and they doubled the budget.
Whoa.
Which is...
doubling a budget.
That's kind of incredible. I'm also, like, incredibly jealous
Yeah.
of it.
That's insane.
Like, my note is, like, talk about things that only happen for white male directors, but, like, also thank God it did. This movie needed every penny. And from the beginning, Scott is all about emphasizing the horror over the fantasy and goes on to describe it as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of science fiction. That's one that they actually watch a lot to reference. Which I think makes
no one
a lot
ever
of
says
sense.
that. Everyone goes the Jaws of this, not
Right?
the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of that.
Which, like, it should be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of that.
Cool. That's fun.
Which I think also, it's a really good reference point in terms of you feel like you see so much more violence than you do. And I think that's very true of Alien, too. It feels like there's so much more gore than there is.
It does. Every time I watch it, I always think there's more. And same
Yeah,
with Texas.
there's
It's-
the chest burster, and there's the android head, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
And the android head is milk.
Yeah,
So
it's not even like gory.
we
in that
only
way. Although
really
your mom's
get one
horrified.
bloody scene. Yeah.
Yeah, funny. That's so true.
So, meanwhile, on Ridley's side of the equation, he's, just made this period piece debut, and then a friend takes him to see Star Wars. And he says, quote, "I looked at Star Wars and thought, what on earth am I even doing thinking about doing Tristan and Isolde?" That's his plan for his next project, is doing another period piece, when this guy is doing this kind of movie. And it literally stopped me in my tracks. I was depressed for 3 months. That's my highest form of accolade, to get very depressed first and then get very competitive.
Honestly, that's why I'm here, baby.
Honestly, same.
Depression to competitiveness.
That is the pipeline that keeps you going as an
it
artist.
does. Yeah, it's really just a circle. It's on loop.
So, like, for all the shade I've thrown at and will continue to throw at Ridley Scott, I will at least give him some credit for that being a very honest answer. He also contributes a new ending to the story once Ridley Scott gets brought on. So he thinks, so the script calls for the story to end with the Nostromo being destroyed and Ripley escaping on the Narcissus, and that being the end.
Yeah.
He pitches this new ending where she and the alien face down on the shuttle, and gets them to up the budget even more and add on additional days for that new ending.
Holy shit.
Which is...
He had some good ideas, huh?
And, like, again, thank God he did, because that ending is incredible.
Perfect.
However, he wanted to take it even one step further and have the movie end with the alien biting off Ripley's head and then making a log entry using her voice.
What I wonder what he'd sound like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh no! Do you have what he'd sound?
Oh my God, if only. But so
I was like, don't look at me like that, Sienna.
thank
That's
God the
stupid.
producers veto this.
Yeah, that's again, it goes to silly, goofy, real quick.
fast. They're like, look, we understand you're trying to do something different, but you can't kill Ripley.
You can't do that.
You can't have Ripley's head get ripped off and then the alien uses her voice. You can't do that.
Yeah.
It just would be too far.
Because then the Independence Day does that with the alien talking through that guy. Like he kind of puppets him and makes him talk. So
very
in that way that works. But
Dead Silence too.
Yeah. But that would have been
This is not a movie about puppetry. We have plenty of puppet horror, and this is not that. Yeah. Do you know, or do you want to take a guess at the production budget?
Oh my God! Now I'm like wildly. I'm trying to think. 70 Star Wars.
Think Jaws. Jaws
wasn't. Well, he like doubled his budget basically.
He tripled his budget.
Tripled it? Fuck! I forget what Jaws was. That was so long ago. That was last summer.
Jaws was supposed to be $3 million and ended up coming in at $9 million.
Okay.
I'm
gonna say. Well, I feel like they got a ton of money though. I'm gonna say like. Oh, I'm gonna guess wildly wrong. I'm gonna say $50 million.
10.7.
Oh, okay. Oh my God.
Yeah. really not big. And originally, again, before he got them to double the budget, it was at like 4.5.
God, they did so much with that money. Oh my God, can you imagine if it would have been less?
Yeah. It would have been a B movie. It absolutely would have been. So clearly
Yeah.
that's how people were reading
10
and
million
processing
for
the
that.
script. It's incredible. And when I say think Jaws, because like if that's 9 million and 75, 10.7 and 79, it's really similar budget,
Yeah.
which is kind of incredible given obviously so much of the money on Jaws got poured into things that don't work.
Right.
So you don't really
Get to
see a lot
see
of that money on screen.
this
Here,
one.
it's incredible to imagine this movie being made for that.
Yeah.
Like, given
Because the set, it's like
the
you
set
can't
design,
even,
the scale, like it's
you
just
can't get better.
Yeah.
It really is just so perfect
Mhm.
still.
Mhm.
Oh my
And so
gosh,
it
10
goes to show
million.
you they really he knew how to put that 10.7
Mhm.
to work. So, again, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, it's American money, but it shoots in England. It's on sound stages near London. The miniatures are done in Berkshire. Production lasts 14 weeks. So it starts on July 5th and it goes to October 21st, 78, which strikes me as quite fast
Yeah.
for the scale, the budget
Yeah,
size, all
14
these
weeks.
things. And they are under a lot of pressure to finish and get the film in front of the public as quickly as possible, probably out of that gotta capitalize on Star Wars energy.
Right, yeah.
And there are so many good audition stories for
Oof.
this film. So Scott goes into the idea that if he casts really strong actors, he can basically forget about the performances and just concentrate on the visuals on set, which
Funny.
like hire good actors anyway,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I digress.
yeah.
He then goes on to apparently, well, this is one of the things about Ridley Scott. He's one of those directors who gives a lot of conflicting interviews. And so I've seen both stories saying that he wrote pages of backstory for every character and interviews where he says that he doesn't give a shit about character backstory. And I'm like, which is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
He said both. But it very much tracks for somebody who's got a reputation for being very controlling to me that he would have gone
Yeah.
and written these backstories.
Yeah, maybe
for
he
the
said it and he's like,
characters.
that sounds lame. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna let anyone know.
I'm gonna pretend that I didn't.
Yeah.
He
a backstory.
also apparently filmed rehearsals and capitalized on. There was actually some real tension on set, particularly between the more experienced performers and Sigourney Weaver, which he tried to kind of accentuate that to draw that out for the performances, to kind of create this additional tension between her and the rest of the crew, which makes me feel very bad for Sigourney, but
Yeah.
it gives us an extremely incredible dynamic between the Nostromo folks.
Yeah.
But first, the team approached Tom Skerritt before the project even has a director attached, when it was slated for half the original budget, and he turns it down.
Who's Tom Skerritt?
He's Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
No,
I've
worries.
forgotten. I don't know anyone's character's names, so for Ripley.
Not important.
And I don't remember any actors' names.
He's first white guy to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I believe. Is that right? Is he the first one to die?
Well, Kane is technically.
That's true. Kane is technically the first to die. He's like the captain, basically. Yeah.
Yes.
So they come back to him once they've got Ridley Scott attached and the budget doubled, and he's like, okay, now I'll take the project.
Well,
Which
whatever.
he waited until the right time, to be fair to Tom Skerritt.
So get more.
On a similar note, John Hurt is their first choice for is Kane the John Hurt character? Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. He's on another project at the time, and so they cast another actor named John Finch instead, who shows up, shoots apparently just one day, and then gets diagnosed with diabetes and has to drop out of the project. But by that time, Hurt's other project has fallen through, apparently because he's not allowed to travel to South Africa at the time because he's been vocally anti-apartheid, which, good. And so his schedule's opened up. And so Finch goes to get medical treatment and Hurt gets the part.
Huh.
So it all kind of worked out the way it was meant to in this weird way. I think we all know that Ripley's character was written to be gender neutral. I didn't know, however, that the entire script was. Every character was gender neutral, and the actual note on the script reads, quote, "The crew is unisex and all parts are interchangeable for men or women."
I love that.
Love.
We should do that for a lot of things.
Right? And so
then
then
an ensemble cast, I would say specifically. Like those really can be whatever.
And it's not that it doesn't matter, like Ridley Scott says, but it creates this openness for interpretation in terms of all the different directions the story could go.
I was gonna say it allows like the actors to come in and like the right fit for like
Exactly.
the essence
The
of
energy.
yeah.
So the casting directors kind of take this idea and are like, okay, let's treat it as like truckers in space. And they assemble which I love it. I fucking love it. And
I need a movie called
Truckers in Space. Yeah. Directed by Mel Brooks. Which like it really, that's how they create this team that really feels like it's made out of real people.
Yeah.
And that's a concept that in another Ridley Scott says the exact opposite thing in 2 different interviews moment. In one case, he says that this is due to Star Wars basically doing the same thing. And in another case, he says that Star Wars did the opposite and he wanted to like push back on Star Wars, where basically he says, here's one of the quotes. George Lucas said that people still have to wash behind their ears at night. That was another wonderful touch. It influenced me when I did Alien. I thought it would be better to push it a little bit further and make them truck drivers. So in that quote, the point he's trying to make is like Star Wars was like taking place in a dirty version of the future, and we wanted it to feel like a dirty version of the future.
Sure.
In other interviews, he's like, Star Wars is way too clean, and I wanted to make a version of space that's actually dirty. So like, who knows? He's got very different feelings on it, but either way, it comes down to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert also later points out that casting older actors helps towards this. So the women are 28 and 30 at the time, but the male cast is all 39 to 53. So they're older than your typical male leads are in Hollywood at this time. And so there's more of like a...
Well, not squeaky clean.
They're not squeaky
dudes.
clean. Yeah, they feel a little bit space worn, you know? And for a while, they were looking at Meryl Streep to star.
That bitch is
She's everywhere.
Everyone wanted her, as they should. That's so funny. Imagine all the
mixed
things.
Feelings on Meryl Streep, to be honest.
I love her. You're wrong.
But the whole world agrees.
Imagine all the things if she actually would have been fucking everything.
Imagine.
We're just living it. It's just, it would be, instead of Hollywood, it's just
Meryl Streep universe. But the thing is, her husband had just died, and so they decided not to approach her for the part, which I'm glad they gave her the space to mourn. I don't think it would have been fair to her.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to reach out to her. Meanwhile, Helen Mirren auditions, which like, oh my God, Helen Mirren at this point in time, she would have been so hot.
Yeah, how old was she at the time? Around like
probably around the same age, I would think.
Yeah. She's great.
Oh my God. Yeah, my note was 70s Helen Mirren in a tank top. I'd watch the fuck out of that.
I know,
like,
yeah. Helen Mirren at like it's just
Helen Mirren now in a tank top, I'd watch the fuck out of that.
The eras, I'm just like interchangeably, they're my favorite.
Yeah, that woman is gold.
Yeah.
She never,
Yeah. We just talk about her the whole episode. That would have been a wild choice too.
Truly. And Sigourney's actually the last character they cast. And there's such great stories about it. She apparently went to the wrong hotel for her initial casting session. And so she like, I know, that grosses me out. I like heard that and paused.
Come in a tank top and panties, please.
Hello?
To the men and
yeah. To everybody. I mean, they wanted everybody to be in deep sleep nude, and the studio stopped them from that. But
yeah.
I honestly think it would have been great.
Oh, I thought you went to my brain was thinking
to the audition. Oh my God, no!
I was like, that makes
not
sense.
that.
I was at a hotel.
Yeah. But so she shows up late because of that, and she's like all sweaty and like, out of breath.
Yeah,
and like
that's perfect.
Ridley Scott opens the door and is like, "That's Ripley." Wow. And then because she's like so late in the casting process, then when the time comes to shoot her screen tests, they're shooting them on the sound stages as the sets are being built in the background. So she's like,
God,
I remember.
That would make me so anxious.
I know. I can't.
Being brought in that late, of being like, well, I gotta catch up with everyone else now.
Yeah, she's just incredible.
Yeah.
On the opposite side of the audition spectrum, Harry Dean Stanton walks into his audition and tells Ridley Scott that he doesn't like sci-fi. And Ridley Scott is like, "You're funny, I want you."
Yeah, he shows up in the Hawaiian shirt that he's wearing on the thing, and they're like, "Yeah, that's okay.
It's perfect. Make sure you bring the Hawaiian shirt."
He just didn't want to be there the whole time, so that was they were like, "Perfect.
Yep.
You don't even need lines. Well,
Great.
You just say what you want.
Bing, bang, boom." That's honestly how I feel about Harry Dean Stanton in every movie. Like, it never feels like he's reading lines from the script. It just feels like he walks on and is Harry Dean Stanton.
He seems, I don't know if I would have ever, I don't know if he's still alive, but I would have never wanted to meet him because he does have this air of like, he's probably an awful person.
There's a little something
I don't know
there.
if he is. That's me being mean.
But like, I agree with that.
But I love
feeling.
him. He's like my favorite in this.
I love to watch him. But Poor Veronica Cartwright, who plays Lambert. This is where I said I feel like this movie did her dirty, because she also auditioned for Ripley and didn't find out that she wasn't cast as Ripley until she shows up for her costume fittings and sees that the tag on them says Lambert and not Ripley. And
Why would
she's
they not
like,
tell her what they got cast for?
exactly. Like, that's heartbreaking.
Who
Yeah.
fucked up there?
And
You're hired.
Yeah.
For what? We
For
don't
what?
know. You're gonna find out.
And of course she's going to assume it's for the part she auditioned for, right? Like,
as you would.
as you would. And she's at first not a huge fan of the character of Lambert, and partially because she feels like it's, you know, Ripley is such a tough character and Lambert's a lot more vulnerable, and it
Yeah.
feels more like kind of your average 70s lady role, you know?
Sure. Yeah, she was excited to play something different.
But she goes on to say, quote, "They convinced me that I was the audience's fears. I was a reflection of what the audience is feeling." So that's how she's able to kind of find a way to make the role.
Her scream in that close up of her is.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
Oh no!
Yep.
Am I not gonna like
Put a
this
pin in
anymore?
that
God
scream.
fucking damn it! Every time I
You
like
ac-
something, I get crushed.
You actually might like it. It's
okay.
yeah, it's just a fun story.
Pinput.
However, the one performance that goes the least discussed and the most overlooked is Bolaji Badijo, who is the 26-year-old design student, not an actor, playing the alien.
He's such a cutie patootie, by the way, out of
amazing.
costume. He's
Oh, I'm so glad
he's
you've
so
seen him, because
handsome.
I brought in a
He's-
picture.
He's so handsome.
He's adorable.
I love him. Yeah.
He's 6'10".
Wild.
This was his only film role. He was cast because he was spotted at a Soho pub where he was working as a waiter, by one of
That
the
poor-
casting directors.
His back must have
I know.
been killed.
Bending
like, yeah,
down to
bending those
tables, it
drinks.
must have been a nightmare. And Scott thought his height was going to be helpful to make it seem like the alien's limbs were too long to possibly be just like a man in a rubber suit, which is like always
Yeah.
the fear, is that it's
Yeah.
going to look like a man in a rubber suit. Before they found Badajo, Scott had actually auditioned Peter Mayhew, who plays Chewbacca.
Oh,
Which is
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
And Scott originally wanted to have 3 different actors playing the alien so that he could have one who's there for the physicality, one who's a mime, and one who's a martial arts expert. But he couldn't find 3 separate performers to match Badajo's height.
Yeah.
So he instead sends Badajo to take mime classes himself. However, the credits list him with the stunt performers and the cats instead of the rest of the cast, which broke my fucking heart.
No.
So boo to that. He's adorable. He really wanted to go on and do other performances and
Right.
other, like, continue working in film, but he never got cast in anything else. And it's,
Damn.
I feel like we got cheated of what could have been some
Yeah.
incredible performances.
I was gonna say he would just be like Hollywood, like royalty at
Oh
that
my
part.
God,
He could
yeah.
have done so many things, like some like taller actors.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, like, again, we don't get to see his face, but he is so handsome. Like, he's absolutely leading man.
That's like the one thing
material.
I knew about
About him.
about Alien was him.
That's so funny. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
They also
Yeah.
they had to make him a special little like swing to sit in on set so that he wouldn't crush
Little
the tail
tail.
to sit down. Yeah.
Imagine just like
There's like some
Swing
adorable
around.
photos of him just like sitting in the swing.
Oh my god, I have to see this. I haven't seen the swing
It's
pictures. That's
so
really
good.
cute.
Okay, now we move into making of, into the Geigerverse. The
Yeah,
Gigerverse.
the Gigerverse.
No, I knew it was gonna happen.
It's okay. It's the first time.
Okay, I get one. O'Bannon
Buzz.
specifically pinpoints Giger's 1976 print Necronom 4 as the inspiration for the look of the creature. And it's so obvious that now it's bizarre to look back on it and think that this was made before Alien.
Whoa.
That's
I've
from,
never seen that picture
yeah,
before.
from 76.
I mean,
Yeah.
copy
So-
paste.
Yeah. So this
Cut
is
print.
this had
Straight to
basically
screen.
just been made around the time that he meets Giger working on Dune. And so he sees that and he's like, that's what I need to write about.
Yeah.
So
Ugh, 'cause it's such a
Basically, the monster is fully formed from the get-go.
wild-
O'Bannon, yeah. So O'Bannon then shows Giger's work to Ridley, who's obviously the one who actually gets to make that decision.
Right.
And Ridley doesn't need any convincing. He's like, oh, yeah, we're going to be fine. That was my one concern about the movie, was like making the alien look right. That's our alien.
Yeah.
But the studio needs some convincing because they're scared that the designs are going to be a little too gruesome and perhaps a little too sexual. And
Yeah,
yes, they are. We love
Yes
it.
to both. Yes and yes.
Which, like, yeah, shows how little they know about what we want.
Yeah.
Um, Set construction corner. It took 200 people to build the 3 major sets, which are the Nostromo, the planet surface, and the abandoned spacecraft. Art director Les Dilley would take Giger's designs and then make miniatures at 1/24th scale, and then would mold and cast those miniatures and then scale them up to make the wooden fiberglass for the full-size sets, which I thought was a really interesting way of going about that. And then I love this. To avoid having to build an entire full-scale ship, they made a 58-foot-long landing leg for the Nostromo to imply the size of the hull, but Scott still felt like it looked too small, so he had his own 2 kids and the DP's son stand in for the actors in the wide shots.
That's cute.
It's adorable, and they used the same trick for the Finding the Dead alien sequence, too, to make that look even bigger. It's children.
Oh my god, I gotta look at their movements, because usually
Usually you can tell.
clock a kid move.
Yeah.
So clearly.
Yeah, which I guess also the space suits help a little bit there, because kid heads are so much bigger than their bodies.
Yeah.
So are anybody in a spacesuit. It's going to look the same.
Yeah,
So,
that worked out. Damn.
and all 3 decks of the Nostromo are constructed on 3 different connected sets that are like connected by this like series of hallways. So there's this kind of like life imitates art layer where they're kind of having to navigate these claustrophobic little corridors to get through the Nostromo. A model mini-tid. The ship, the Nostromo, the exterior was originally yellow. It was like this dirty, gross yellow, which I think would have been amazing. They shoot 6 weeks with the yellow Nostromo, and then Ridley Scott changes his mind and makes them paint it gray and redo all of it.
Whoa.
Insane.
Do you know if there's got to be photos?
I
or,
think
like,
there's
something that looks-
probably photos. I'm gonna see if I can find some.
That would have been cool.
It's the degree of specificity that this man has. Like, we
Yeah.
get something amazing from it, but God, everybody working with him must have wanted to murder him.
Yeah, 6 weeks. Are you
Um,
kidding me?
It's just mind-boggling. The computer consoles inside the ship are all made using like bulky transistors, low-res screens. One of the articles I read made the point that 2001 Space Odyssey, you have flat screens inside the ship. They specifically use giant consoles in this to make it feel like the ship's been, that this is like an old grungy low-rent ship made out of repurposed parts, which I think is
that.
just amazing. They even made parts of the corridors out of repurposed scrap metal from World War II bombers. And they, to like make the corridors look longer, they used mirror tricks, like placing mirrors to kind of extend it. By contrast to that, Giger then used dried bones and plaster for the alien environments to give it this sort of really drastically different, very clearly organic texture in comparison. However, for as wonderful as the sets were, the costumes proved really difficult.
no.
Especially because, keep in mind, this starts shooting on July 5th in London. It's very hot. And they're wearing spacesuits, which are very hot, under very hot lights. And initially,
Oh no.
these spacesuits do not have a vent for exhaled carbon dioxide. So people are just like boiling in their own carbon
death
dioxides. Yeah, inside these suits.
Oh my god.
Actors keep passing out. They have to have nurses and oxygen standing by on set. And they eventually add oxygen systems to the costumes, but not until after they bring their own children in as stand-ins, and the children almost collapse. And then Ridley's finally like, oh, I guess people need to breathe.
We can't kill the children, I guess.
Yeah, we can't kill my children, I guess. Again, what a guy.
Just a couple of holes,
Yep.
my guy. There's plenty of
Literally,
places
like,
to put those.
this isn't actual space. Your suits don't actually have to be airproof.
What a that's
Yeah.
a wild oversight.
He even, like, in one interview about this, refers to his kids as quote-unquote moving miniatures. And I'm like, wow, really
Well,
giving us some
as long as
insight.
he's consistent.
He treats everybody the same.
Yeah.
He's
everyone
treating
like
the
that.
cast like his own kids. Terribly.
Yeah, terribly. Oh my god.
Yeah. I know
There's no way.
I mentioned this is a very sweaty movie.
Yeah, that's one reason.
This is
so
one
got it.
reason. Another reason is
God.
that they want the actors to look sweatier.
Why in the 80s did they want everyone wet? Or
It's-
70s, 80s? Everyone was just wet.
Me and our projectionist Chris complain about this all the time, that
Oh,
movies
yeah.
are too dry now. We
Yeah,
want things wet.
When we were talking about Ninja Turtles,
Yes!
we said like that's a wet
it's
movie.
a wet movie. Yes. Yes.
They don't do it like that anymore.
They don't do it like they
Everyone's
used to.
dry. That's not
Mhm.
reality, baby.
Mhm.
We're sweating right now. Actually, we're not.
We
School
love a
here.
wet movie.
Funny.
So they're putting
Fair.
glycerin on all the actors to make them look sweatier. But the thing is, partway through production, Sigourney Weaver's starting to have an allergic reaction, and she's scared that she's allergic to cats. And she's like, "You might just have to recast me, because like it's harder to like find good cats. Like
Yeah,
you've
the
got your
cats.
cats.
Honestly, the cats in this were amazing.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
They're great
that
cat
close up of that
performers.
cat.
Yeah, the one where it like sees the alien for the
And
first
it's like
time.
looking around.
You know how they did that? They had
Yes. I was hoping you had this
yes,
information.
they had like a German Shepherd on the other side of like a door,
Yeah.
and they like revealed it at a certain point to the
And that's
cats
why
that
it's
you
all-
get that reaction where like at first it seems comfy,
Yeah.
and then it sees that there's a German Shepherd right next to it and didn't realize it, and that's how you get that like surprise
Oh.
hiss reaction.
We joked that it was a cucumber. They showed him a cucumber.
True.
German
Look up
Shepherd
cats and
makes sense.
cucumbers.
Yeah, look up cats and
It's
cucumbers.
incredible. But so Sigourney finds out that the allergy she has is actually to the reaction of
Glycerin.
cat hair and glycerin, so she can do one or the
The
other at a
blend?
time. So they can shoot her with glycerin as
chemical
long as there's no
reaction?
cat, or with cat as long as there's no glycerin.
What the fuck?
It's very weird.
That's yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think I like that.
I
Didn't know that was a thing.
that concerns me about glycerin.
Yeah, or she was like mildly allergic to both, and then
The
together it was
combination.
like yeah.
I don't understand the allergy science
Me
there,
either.
but that's the story.
We're not doctors.
For all of the amazing practical effects, though, we do get some early CGI in this movie because all of the computer screens on the Nostromo are CGI images, which I thought was
That
just
looks so good.
it does. It looks phenomenal.
Wow.
And so this is like a really early. I mean, think about this is 79. I think 84 is when we get Children of the Corn, and think how bad the CGI in that looked.
What are you talking about? You didn't notice it at all.
That lighting was totally real.
Yeah.
Um,
Wild, yeah.
And most of the space work was just filmed against black backdrops with stars added in post on like a second layer.
That's why it looks so good.
But to show the models moving in space, I thought this was such a cool in-camera trick. They shot at 2.5 frames per second instead of 24,
Oh.
moving the camera slowly over the models, and then speed that footage up with smoke and wind added to create the
Yeah.
illusion that it's the model that's moving, not the camera.
Oh, wow.
It's
That's genius.
Genius.
So
Yeah.
simple.
a few how do they shoot that stories. For Kane inspecting the egg, that was shot during post, actually, not during principal photography. They made the egg out of fiberglass so that when Hurt shone a light through it, you could actually see something moving inside.
Sure.
And what's moving in there? Do you know this?
Mm-mm.
It's Ridley Scott's hands. He's wearing like
Oh.
rubber kitchen gloves and just fluttering his hands inside.
Oh, little
That's
director
his,
cameo.
Yeah, his little hand cameo.
No way.
We've got another great hand actor on
Yeah,
our
yeah, yeah.
hands.
a director, the
mhm.
hand actor. Yeah,
A hand director.
a hand director. That's so funny.
And the top of the egg was hydraulics that it could lift off, and
Mm.
the inside is made of cow guts.
Oh,
So,
yum.
so that's probably what he's moving his hands
Just
around and
swishing
just
around, yeah.
squishing some cow guts. Another how did they shoot that story about Ash's android reveal? Here's where we get the gross
Oh, yeah, the
ingredients. So they obviously
intrigued.
they've got a puppet of his torso. They're operating it from under the table. They've made an animatronic head with a face cast, but as you can tell, it's not a great head.
Yeah.
Why? Because the latex shrunk during the curing process. And so even though they made a mold from the performer's face, it shrinks and the facial features get distorted in that process, which is part of why it
Oh.
looks
So-
unconvincing.
Yeah.
And so that's why, as much as possible, they shoot it with the actual actor kneeling and sticking his head through the hole, even though
Got
it's,
it.
a lot of that is supposed to be performed by a mechanical head. And the body parts are a combination of caviar, pasta, milk, a ton of milk, which actor
Yuck.
Ian hates because he does not like milk and it spoils real fast under
Yeah, the
those lights.
stinky. Ugh.
Fiber optic cables and urinary catheters. What a shopping list.
Oh, gross.
Imagine going to the grocery store and you're just getting like caviar and catheters.
Yeah, caviar and catheters.
New
Yeah,
Yes,
new
new band name. What kind of
Straps.
music is that?
name. I don't know.
Whatever it is, I don't.
Sludgy.
I feel like it's
I don't know.
like throbbing gristle.
Ew.
Like
Why
that-
did we both say like
Yeah.
awful descriptors? Never say those two words together ever
That's-
again.
What a band name, right?
Ugh.
Um,
Ugh.
making a face hugger. So the face hugger,
Moving
do you need a second?
No, please move on.
I wrote this in such a weird way. The face hugger and its sheep intestine tongue. Tongue's made out of sheep intestine.
Oh, that makes me want to hurl.
Yep. Get shot out of the egg with air hoses. And then the footage gets slowed down and reversed so that, and then the dead face hugger's insides, when it's getting cut apart on the table, mostly fish and shellfish.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
Which they say smelled so terrible, especially again, think how
like,
fast that's going to spoil under the lighting. Like, it's like a bunch of oysters. Like, ugh.
I don't like oysters.
I do not eat any fish or shellfish for just such reasons.
Yeah.
And it was actually Giger's first creature design for the film was the face hugger. Although the final version of it is partially based off an illustration that O'Bannon makes off of Giger's work. So O'Bannon, he's got his fingers in a lot of different pies on this film.
He's just fanficking Giger over there.
The chest burster. You knew we had to talk about this.
Cute. I love him.
He's such a cool
He's
little
boy.
Like, he's just a little guy. Inspired by his second artist, in addition to Giger, which is Francis Bacon, specifically his 1944 piece, 3 Studies for Figures at the Base of a Crucifixion, which I brought in to show you.
Oh, amazing.
So you can see kind of the face shape of the face hugger comes kind of from that, or from... the chest burster comes from that. O'Bannon also had Crohn's disease and says that that's part of where writing the idea for the facehugger comes from.
Yeah.
But how'd they shoot it? So everybody had seen the puppet and had read the script, knew kind of what's going to happen. But nobody knew that there were going to be like 500 million high-pressure squibs going off at a time. And so... director Ridley has done his best to conceal as much of the process from the actors as possible.
To really get their reactions. Oh, no.
So you've got Hurt sitting there with his real arms and head stuck through a fake torso that's filled with blood. You've got a puppeteer under the table who's got a chest burster on a stick with an air hose running through its tail to make it whip. And they start shooting.
Oh, that's smart.
They start shooting and nothing comes through the t-shirt.
Uh-oh. And
Ridley Scott's like, cut, because he doesn't want the surprise ruined.
Yeah.
He clears the set, has everybody go, then cuts the t-shirt a little bit shorter, has everybody cut back, come back, starts shooting again, and a blood jet directly hits Cartwright in the face.
Oh, no.
Which is, she gets so scared that she screams and falls over. Almost fainted, apparently. That's the shot you're talking about.
Oh, no. It's great.
It's amazing.
It's still good.
I feel like out of all the stories we've talked about, this is not one of the worst set stories. I feel like...
If that happened to me and it was my real horror, I would still laugh about it.
I would find it funny.
Like, after the fact.
And, like, give me a day, but I would find it funny.
I think I would laugh immediately. Okay.
I got a great quote from Yaphet Kotto about that, because apparently he afterwards got so freaked out by that scene that he like went home to his hotel and like wouldn't talk to his wife for like the next 3 hours.
What'd she do?
He just like locked himself in a room and was like, I need a second. But I just love this. He said, quote, "Oh man, it was real, man. We didn't see that coming. We were freaked. The actors were all frightened. And Veronica nutted out."
I love that.
Didn't we all? What's Ridley like in the middle of this? O'Bannon recalls, quote, "I remember easily a half an hour was spent with him draping this little piece of beef organ so it would hang out of the creature's mouth."
He was just like, this is so funny, and like, this is what I'm doing.
This is perfect.
Oh my god.
The beef must be perfect.
Yeah.
Building an adult alien. So the adult form is made out of plasticine, pieces pulled from a Rolls Royce, and snake vertebra. It's like a metal witch's brew. I love it. But while Giger is designing the body, our old buddy Carlo Rambaldi from Deep Red and Possession comes and is creating the head. And so he modifies Giger's design a little bit to give it more facial movement, but otherwise sticks pretty close to it and ends up with a head that features more than 900 moving or articulated points.
Whoa.
Which is...
That's got to be the most on.
I can't even imagine. Yeah. That has to be some kind of a record. And it actually has part of a human skull underneath the face part of it.
Ooh,
which isn't
creepy.
That creepy?
I love that.
Of course, our old friend KY Jelly comes back to keep everything looking appropriately spit covered. Voice work for the adult alien is then done by Percy Edwards, who's a vocalist specializing in animal noises and had done whale sounds for the movie Orca Killer Whale.
Oh,
So
there you go.
that's who else do you want to get for your alien sounds
I
if
was gonna
not
say
the orca guy?
I was gonna say too, if you were to pet the alien, I think he would feel like a little whale or a
I
little
agree.
dolphin.
I feel like that would be the texture. Yeah.
I don't know. I would just want to like boop him a little bit. I can tame him.
Oh my god.
Everyone shut up.
I could fix him.
I can fix him.
And so you do get stunt performers in a couple of the scenes where like the alien is climbing down from something, but apart from that, it's almost all Bolaji. But even with all of the beautiful design that goes into it, Scott wants you to see as little of the alien as possible and said, quote, "The most important thing in a film of this type is not what you see, but the effect of what you think you saw." Which
That's what we're gonna talk about. Nope.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm trying to wrap up, but there's just so many good stories.
It's tough. I know. I mean, we're an hour in.
We're almost done.
You got a bit more.
Almost done.
Yeah, this is gonna be a long one.
The space jockey, because we have to talk about that too. That's an especially hard one to shoot because the studio really doesn't want to spend a ton of money on a creature that you're going to see for just one scene. I've got bad news for them about how much you're going to see the alien itself. But anyway, so what they end up doing is they only have the money to build one wall for that set. So they create one wall on the same stage that they later repurpose for the egg chamber. And they put the space jockey on a rotating disc so that they can turn him around to fake multiple angles with the actors around him. And then most of the rest of the space is just filled in with matte composites. Then Giger goes in, airbrushes the whole set and creature by hand, and so of course it ends up looking fantastic. There was also a whole lot of fascinating backstory for that developed that involved pyramids and like a breeding society and all sorts of weird stuff that got cut for budget reasons. But one more fun little production tidbit: the planet from space shot in a very dark star touch. They just got like a regular classroom globe that they paint white and then project chemical transparencies onto.
Ooh, cool.
Which I feel like that's probably also a place where you see the influence of the Who's stage design coming in a little. Post-production then takes about 20 weeks under the helm of editor Terry Rawlings, who'd done some post-production sound work for Ridley's first film and goes on to edit Blade Runner and Yentl and the 2004 Phantom of the Opera, weirdly enough. And Rawlings and Scott are very much on the same page about pace. And Rawlings says, quote, "I think we did it the right way by keeping it slow, funny enough, which is completely different from what they do today. I think the slowness of it makes the moments that you wanted people to be sort of scared, and then we'd go as fast as we liked because then you've sucked people into a corner and then attacked them, so to speak, and that's why it worked." And so as proof of that slow pacing, the first cut comes in at about 3 hours long.
That makes sense.
Music-wise, Scott wanted the Japanese electronic pioneer Isao Tomita, which would have been amazing, but the studio wants something more familiar. And so the gig goes to Jerry Goldsmith instead, who's nominated the same year for his work on the Star Trek soundtrack.
Oh,
so
nice.
he is very much working in the same kind of a space. And immediately he does not get along with either the director or the editor. Why? So many reasons. To start with, Goldsmith wants the music at the beginning of the movie to be very romantic and to then kind of grow darker with time over the course of the plot. And this does not work for Ridley, who makes him rewrite his entire main theme, which Goldsmith does not appreciate. He then goes back and does what he says is, quote, "the obvious thing, weird and strange," which everybody loved. Which I think you can see how not on board he is from that. Beyond that disjunct, though, Scott and Rawlings get a real bad case of temp track syndrome, where they start cutting the film using music that Goldsmith composed for other films, and then decide in several cases that they like those pieces better than what he's written for Alien, and keep the temp tracks in. And they even put a different composer's piece over the end credits. So, like,
I feel bad for this guy.
Feel really bad for him. And Goldsmith kind of like very diplomatically describes them as being at opposite ends of the pole. Ridley later goes on to compliment Goldsmith's score, but I can't help but wonder what the Tomita version would have sounded like. Because like early electronic pioneer synth score for a movie like this, I feel like could have really created something tonally in line with what's going on visually.
Yeah.
Which isn't to speak badly about this score, just like this isn't the score that anybody wanted.
Yeah.
Even the composer.
Wild. Oh, someone needs to like release something with like.
I know.
Curious what it would be with something else.
I feel like it could have been something so drastically different.
Right.
Okay, release. We almost never talk about teasers or trailers, but a funny little tidbit here. I was so shocked reading this because we have the poster for the original Alien hanging in our office, and so we stare at it all day long.
Oh no, what did we miss?
It's just a hen's egg.
Oh.
It's just a fucking chicken egg. And that's what they used for the original teaser trailer too. The original teaser for Alien is just like 30 seconds of a hen's egg. And it was amazing. And it works so well.
Yeah, I like edited that fucking egg.
Yes.
In posters.
And it looks nothing like the egg in the actual movie, and I've never questioned it before.
Me either.
It's just a fucking hen's egg.
Well, I feel like a dummy. That's funny.
Goes on to make 188 million worldwide at the box office.
Holy shit.
Has a great release, although there is apparently an incident during the initial opening in LA where one of the models of the space jockey gets burned by vandals who thought it was the work of the devil.
Okay. Jesus
just
Christ.
thought that was fun. So yeah, it makes 188 million. But that doesn't stop Fox from claiming that this movie lost money.
How?
They tell the filmmakers that it lost money in its first 11 months. There's an industry-wide outcry. And by August of the following year, they admit that it's made $4 million in profits. And Hollywood once again is like, y'all are a bunch of fucking liars.
Yeah,
and
what the
Brandywine
hell?
sues, which they're doing partially in the hopes of kickstarting a sequel. 20th Century responds that the film didn't do well enough to warrant a sequel, which is patently fucking insane.
Whoa.
The suit is only resolved in 1983 with Fox agreeing to pay for the sequel. So that's what Aliens comes from.
Whoa.
And look, we all know Hollywood is like a money-making machine that loves to steal profits, but this is one of the most egregious examples of like creative accounting that the industry has ever seen.
Damn.
And like, think how much more quickly a sequel would have gotten into production if you just admitted it was profitable.
Yeah.
But if you assumed that this film was like one of those rare successes in the horror genre, with critics, it was not. Which is odd given that it actually was nominated for and won a whole lot of awards. But as an example, I brought in a quote from the LA Herald Examiner, which called it an overblown B movie. Technically impressive, but awfully portentous and as difficult to sit through as a black mass sung in Latin.
Oh my god.
Alien, like the Dawn of the Dead, only scares you away from the movies. Wild.
Oh no.
Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars, but said he thought that the final form of the alien was a letdown, which I thought was interesting. I could not agree less.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, wins plenty of awards and nominations, including the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. It was also nominated for Best Art Direction, but lost, which is insane to me.
To what?
Loses to All That Jazz, which admittedly is spectacular, but it doesn't have H.R. Giger genitalia creatures. Like, come on. You're not going to beat that.
All that jazz.
Also
rigged.
Gets nominations for Saturns, BAFTAs, for everything from like Sigourney to the score. People recognize that the individual pieces of this film are great, even if it's not getting great critical reviews. Obviously, it goes on to an incredible release. There's a director's cut that Ridley Scott basically is forced to make by the studio and doesn't want to do, and so it ends up being actually a minute shorter than the theatrical release. Both the director's cut and the theatrical release have scenes that are only in each of them. So there's a lot of kind of debate about which is the preferred version. Ridley Scott still says that the original is his favorite. Like, had he had his way, he probably wouldn't have done a director's cut. That just was a marketing thing. So interesting.
Never hear that.
Let's see, it's in the Library of Congress. Obviously, there's a ton of rip-offs, including one that I noted down from 1981 called Inseminoid.
Oh.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Gets parodied in Mel Brooks's Spaceballs with a John Hurt cameo nonetheless. Let's see. There's an abbey in Scotland that has a gargoyle remodeled into an alien as an homage to this movie.
Cute.
Eli Roth's called it one of his biggest influences. But in a Tarantino hating it follows moment, do you know who fucking despises Alien?
Someone who does sci-fi. Who?
David Cronenberg.
Really?
Isn't that shocking? You
You
would
would
think
think
he'd
it-
love it.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like, bro, you would have made
Uh-huh.
something like this.
I brought in a quote from him.
Oh my gosh.
He gave an interview to
Jealous.
Fangoria in 1979 saying, quote, "It has no metaphysics, no philosophy. The creature winds up as a man in a crocodile suit who chases a bunch of people around a room. I think my own films do a lot more to touch a deep-seated nerve, more
Aw.
than the simple reaction that you don't want a crocodile to eat you.
Oh my
Alien
God.
was just a $300,000 B movie with a $10 million budget. The parasite device isn't used in a metaphorical way. It's not used to evoke anything in Alien. John Hurt has a parasite in him. He goes about his business as usual. In Shivers, his movie, the parasite stays inside the people and changes their behavior and their motives. It's used for something more than simple shock value."
Oh my God.
He's also
He was just hurt. He was just hurt.
I went
He's a hurt
down
man.
I went down a little bit of a wormhole about this. David Cronenberg has openly in the press over the course of many years accused screenwriter O'Bannon of directly plagiarizing him. For this
Oh, there's
movie.
like something going on.
There's something going on
behind
there.
the scenes.
So I thought that was interesting. You know
Oh.
who else wasn't a fan?
Who?
David Lynch.
No.
I know.
What the heck?
According to Giger in Cinefantastique, quote, "Through friends, I asked Lynch if he was interested in my cooperation on Dune, because obviously he was
Yeah.
supposed to work on the original one. And I never heard from him. Later, I came to know that he was upset because he thought the chestburster in Alien, he thought we copied the chestburster in Alien from his monster baby in Eraserhead, which was not so. Ridley Scott and I hadn't even seen that film at the time. If one film influenced Alien, it was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I would have loved to collaborate with Lynch on Dune, but apparently he wanted to do all the designs by himself." Which, like, my best guess there is that both Lynch and Giger were influenced by the same Francis Bacon painting, because they both talked about being Francis Bacon fans.
Right.
And
That's
I
the
think it's
thing.
a real shame that they were never able to like come to
together
terms
for
over
it. That's I just hear like bitter, like
Yeah.
not in a way that I think is bad, but like bitterness of like
Mhm.
this became so big.
It seems like there's like this film produced a lot of jealousy and some people that I would have expected
out.
to really vibe
Support
with
it.
it.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
and be like, I love this because it's like
Mhm.
this thing that I also do and love.
yeah.
But
I am gonna
That's
cut
funny.
my film theory rant corner because there's
Oh,
just
no.
not time. Basically, there's a whole lot written about this film in terms of, you know, abjection, feminism,
Yeah.
bodies, sexuality. You
Right.
can look at it. There's so much stuff to read. I'll
Yes.
just give one quote from O'Bannon that I thought was kind of funny, where he says, one of his goals in going into writing this was, quote, "I am going to put in every image I can think of to make the men in the audience cross their legs. Homosexual oral rape, birth, the thing lays eggs down your throat, the whole number."
That's a great thing to end on.
And with that,
And with that,
that's Alien.
Yay. That's a great thing to end on. Honestly, the face hugger, the thing going down your your throat, it actually like hurts to
Yep.
think like because the claustrophobia.
Oh
of
my
it.
god! Even the shot of the newspaper getting shoved down Sigourney's throat.
Yeah, I
Which
know.
Ridley Scott's gone on the record saying that that's supposed to be something that is like giving Ash sexual satisfaction as he's doing that, which just makes it so
don't
much
say
worse.
that.
I
don't want that. It's making me cross my
Yeah.
legs.
All the men in the audience were all like,
cross your legs. Oh my god, that was so fun.
"Yay!"
I wish we could talk like.
Oh my god!
I don't know if all of you want to hear us talk for so long,
I
but
cut like
I
3
could
pages
listen.
of notes in that. That was still.
I know
Oh
I'm
my
curious
God.
of what I'm going to be able to get through if I'm
Yeah.
honest. I'm like a little afraid because
Yeah.
I just so much enjoyed that I'm like, great. What do I remember?
Yay.
Just that lives like in my brain now.
Oh, I'm
Ugh.
so excited.
Yeah, I only
for-
knew like
for
little
Nope.
little pieces. So
Yeah. Oh, I'm so. I was
many
worried that this
things.
was going to be one that you knew like a ton of behind the scenes stuff about, and that I would be boring you.
Yeah,
so.
no, I kind of just knew about the actor who played the xenomorph.
Oh.
It was like a little bit of the
well,
little- yeah.
Yeah. So good.
I don't know where to go from here. I
Yeah,
guess a break.
Yeah. And we'll be right back.
And we're back. Oh god, the nerves just kicked in because that might be like my favorite live watching you talk about one.
Oh my god, really?
Like on the pod. Yeah. It was really
Why?
fun. I don't know. I
Good.
just really enjoyed
Love
it. And now I'm
that.
nervous. Now I'm super nervous.
I'm so excited to hear about this.
I know.
This
I'm
is-
like that's why I'm nervous, is because I love this man so much.
he's such a genius.
I
One of
love-
the great minds of our time.
It's for me, like Get Out is my most rewatched, probably my most rewatched. It's got to be up there with like most rewatched film of all time for
Yeah.
me. I put it on all the time, and then Nope has started to really
Creeping up.
creep up for me. for so many reasons. Again, like the rewatch of it and like the tone of it, the way it looked, like it just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
I was
brighter in a
thinking
way.
after watching it last night, I was like, if I had to do a ranking, like I think Get Out is still always going to be my favorite of
Yeah.
his, but I think this even surpassed Us, which I love Us.
Yeah, I mean they're also great for so many different reasons, but I just love Daniel Kaluuya so
He's
much.
so amazing.
He's one of my
And
favorites.
Kiki Palmer.
Oh my god, yeah, she's their dynamic in this.
It's
I like again.
incredible.
We could spend an hour just talking about the two of them. We'll talk about them
I-
kind of a little bit, but like
I could watch just 2.5 hours of Kiki Palmer vaping.
right.
Honestly, like
Yeah, same. Daniel Kaluuya could just be sitting.
Yeah,
and
yep.
I am sat.
Yep. Locked
So,
in.
Yeah, I am like super stressed about this because I don't want to do it disservice. We were kind of talking on the break. You know, there's like there is and there isn't so much. There's so much online about this. There's so many interviews. There's like behind the scenes. And I feel like when it came out, like so many people love to dissect Jordan Peele's work, as we should. And he has so much to say about it. Like unlike some directors we've talked about, like the layers are intentional.
He's
they are
so
there.
good at talking about his work. Like,
And I think some of it's subconscious for him that he's just such a fan of filmmaking and horror. That I'm sure like he probably loves hearing people be like, is that a reference to that? No, but actually it could be, because I love that movie. So I can see, I feel like I don't have like a ton of quotes from him actually, because there's just so much meat.
Yeah.
So I just kind of, again, I have 17 pages of notes sitting in front of me. We're not going to do all of them. I think I boiled them down to 11. So I'm really just kind of like answered some of the things. I did like the basics and then answered some questions that I had or things that I thought were cool.
I'm so excited.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Oh my God. 5 out of 5. Yeah.
I love watching it when we have cloudy days here. I literally I love to just put it on because I'm like
the bit about that cloud hasn't moved for months.
Did you just like
all the hairs on my arms stood up?
It's so great.
So
and then they show the footage. Oh, it's so good.
And the line delivery on when Daniel Kaluuya says maybe it's not a ship. I was just like,
I know. There's so many moments in this that just like strike through you. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the other tidbit that I have. I'm going to hide my screen because I have visuals for you. And I feel like I must have noted this. And for those of you who've listened way far back and have heard us mention this particular film before, this is a deep connection for me.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
We have a Holes
I was wondering.
Holes connection.
As I was watching, I was like, is that poster a Holes reference? And I was like, I cannot fucking look that up. I have to talk to Al.
So it's very obvious for those of you who know Holes, who know the poster. So when we enter Jupe's office, when Kiki is walking down looking at the memorabilia, in the background we see, what is it, the kid sheriff poster.
Yes. Which also, like, even just naming it Kid Sheriff is so funny.
So, I do have a side-by-side for you.
Yes!
Of the Kid Sheriff poster and the Holes poster. It's directly, there's, like, Reddit threads.
It's, like, Indiana Jones Holes.
Yeah. So, like, no one's talked about it, but, like, Reddit is, like, there's no way it's not.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And so it makes my little heart so happy that this exists in this world. So always happy to find the dumb connection for myself. So, the side-by-side's amazing. We have to post it up. We need to start, like, posting more of our, like, reference photos up for people on our stories.
Crack Theory Jordan Peele also writes Holes fanfic.
That's where it all started. Me and him. If I ever meet him, that's the only thing I'm asking him.
Yes.
Are you a fan of Hole? Have you ever, like, written a little me too? Oh my God, we're the same. Best friends.
That's how it all starts. Yeah.
And so, like, speaking of posters, another thing I didn't know where to throw it. This one actually, like, and maybe everyone fucking knows this, but it blew my fucking mind. So some of the other posters that they have for the marketing in this is all the characters, like, looking up into the sky. I did not realize until I went down, like, Reddit threads to like just confirm things or like see what other people thought about stuff. The one of Jupe, you know how he wears his cowboy hat? People are saying it's not the cowboy hat. It is the alien behind him.
Oh my God, it because that
And I
I
never
was
noticed that.
thinking about that. The more we see of the alien, the more I was like, is it a cowboy hat? Like it's shaped
Mhm.
like a cowboy
Yeah.
hat.
It again with like Jordan Peele, like everything feels like a yes.
Yeah.
To things. So a lot of people speculate that is kind of the representation of like the Wild Wild West
It felt like it.
with the shape. We
It's
will
like
get
the
talking.
echo of the Western, like
Yeah.
leaning over,
Yeah.
looming over everything.
Everything has like 5 layers. So
Yes.
we will talk about some layers just one, some a couple. We will talk about the alien design, and I do have photos for that. But that one kind of blew my mind, and that is all I can see. The shape of this
Yeah.
alien is like
It's
the
glorious.
coolest thing ever. So we have taglines, kind of. There weren't really any for this. I think the whole thing built around this was just the title Nope
Yeah.
and kind of the
And
mystery
Yeah,
of
and the
what that
images
meant.
of them looking up. And
So the only one that I kind of found was like a new terror from the mind of Academy Award winner Jordan Peele.
that's terrible.
And then I said arguably Nope in itself is the tagline.
yeah, I
and
think
the title.
so.
So that's all we have for this. I was kind of like, "Mwah, mwah," but I almost feel like it would have pulled away from.
Yeah, I feel like Nope needs no tagline.
It doesn't.
Nope.
Nope. It says all of it right there. So
Mhm.
obviously writer director Jordan Peele. Again, I'm
And
like
producer.
Yeah, he's like everything.
Yeah.
Just genius brain. This is his 3rd movie, like we just talked about. I do have kind of stats about the other 2 just to keep in mind in comparison.
And also, him, the new Jordan Peele movie that's
Yeah.
coming out, shot here. And a bunch of my
Was it
crew
really?
worked on it.
Oh
yeah.
fuck. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
my-
talked about it at the end because he didn't write or direct, so that's just a monkey paw production. But I did not know it was New Mexico.
It was New Mexico shot. And my cat, my sound mixer, worked on that.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say my cat was in there.
Oh my god.
Theo.
My cat starred in it.
Cat actor now. Sag.
Catter.
Cactor.
Cactor.
I would have loved that imagery. I would have died too if you knew me and you didn't bring me to that set. I would have
God.
been very upset at you. So we have this came out in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
For context, 2017 was Get Out. I remember seeing that in theaters.
Me too.
Blew my mind. So
Such
that
a great one to see with like a packed house.
I was dead.
Yeah.
I think I was actually, me and Trav were just for the first
Oh,
time
was that one
talking,
of
and
your
that was
early dates?
we did not go together, but I was like, you have to see this movie.
That's so
It's the best."
cute. I remember I was
Um,
in film school and I like went up to my favorite professor the next day and I was like, I'm staking my reputation on this. You have to go see this. And she was like, really, Sienna? Those are fighting words. And I was like, I'm serious, Annette.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. It felt like, again, it was the new wave. I think also to see like this, he's so fucking famous on his own of all the
Mhm.
other things that he does with comedy. And
Yeah.
so like seeing this and then hearing all the speculation of what it was going to be and how it wasn't going to be this like I think
Mhm.
just that in itself created this perfect marketing like
Totally.
spiral for himself. But I also love that he pushed himself to do something and to see I love seeing this other side
Yeah.
of creators like that.
Well,
So
especially
yeah.
because I think horror and comedy are so intimately connected, but we think of them as so opposed to each
Yeah.
other. And so seeing
No.
somebody that we know from comedy move into horror or vice
Yeah.
versa is really exciting.
It feels also comedians are just come on.
Yeah.
They got the darkest of darkness.
Oh,
within
yeah.
them. So it makes so much sense. And that's what I think I love about like how complex all of his films with the humor that's in it.
Mhm.
Because with horror I think some of our
Totally.
favorite ones like have these really dark, humorous moments that really feel real.
Well, and I think even the title is like carrying so much
my
of
God,
that
it's so
dark
funny.
humor that particularly because it's like riffing off the idea of like white people making stupid decisions in horror movies, like
Yeah.
going towards
Yeah.
the monster, and the characters in this are all like, nope,
Not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so again, I don't want to gush too much. So 2017's Get Out, that's when that came out. It grossed $255 million at the box office worldwide on a budget of $4.5 million. I saw like speculation on some of the budgets of these, but I'm just reading what I have found and
Wait, say
checked.
those numbers one more time.
$225 million is
Mhm.
what it made
Makes sense.
off a budget of 4.5. Yeah.
This only cost 4.5.
That's what I have
you
found. I have
kidding?
some discrepancy on that one and some on even Nope. So
Oh, okay, that was Get Out. Oh, okay, that makes
That was
more
Get Out.
sense.
That was Get
okay.
Out. No,
I thought you were
Nope.
saying Nope cost 4. And I was like,
No, no,
with
no.
those special effects?
I'll
My
make you
God.
guess, girl.
Okay, yeah,
You're gonna
that's what I
guess.
figured. Okay, great, fantastic.
You'll see they all kind of raise. So that's what he started. That was his
Nope
first
being
project.
4.5, I could, or I mean, Get Out being 4.5, I could definitely see.
Yeah,
that makes
it's
sense.
smaller
Yeah.
scale. His
Yeah.
first one. So
It's like largely in one location.
yeah. So he his screenplay won an Oscar for best original screenplay,
So
and then
deserved.
was recognized for best script of the by the WGA.
Ah.
It also was the highest grossing debut film for a black writer director at the time. I don't know if it still holds that, but a lot of things came from this. It set his career off, I think. I'm just like, take your time, buddy. If it's 10
yeah.
years until your next one, I don't give a fuck. Just
Absolutely.
like create the good stuff for us. So
No, Get
that-
Out like changed the trajectory of film history. I think.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely. I stand by that.
Yeah.
So then 2019 rolls around, which I feel like is such a quick kind of turnaround for another film, which grossed 256 million, so $1 million more.
Nice.
Worldwide on a budget of 20 million.
Okay,
So
yeah.
he got
Good.
his.
Yeah. And that also
Um,
feels 20 feels like right on
Yeah.
on brand or on what it should be
Just
for
a little bit extra on that.
for us. Yeah.
It also was the second highest opening film of the year, just
Wow.
behind Disney's and Marvel's Captain Marvel, which was like highly anticipated at
Yeah,
the time.
of course that's gonna.
So just to kind of put it in context, those
Wow.
two things. So you kind of have this like insanely big success out the
Mhm.
gate. We're coming around for his third film. So when it comes to the idea of making a third film after you
Yeah.
have these two wildly successful films, Jordan Peele said, quote, "First and foremost, I wanted to make a UFO horror film." And then of course it's like, where is the iconic black UFO film? Which,
Yeah.
great question to ask. Where is it? And whenever I feel that my favorite movie is out there, hasn't been made yet, and it's this void that I'm trying to fill in my films. It's like trying to make the film that I wish someone would make for me.
Oh,
So that's kind of where he went from that. And I just wanted to kind of set
That's-
because I was like, yeah, like you have these two films. Where do you, what do you,
Yeah.
I don't
What do
know.
you do- where do you
His brain, I
go?
don't know what he
Yeah.
does. So that's
Well,
kind of where he comes from.
It's so funny when he puts it that way. Like, where is the iconic like black UFO film? Weirdly, the first place my mind goes is like the closest thing I can think of is Night of the Living Dead.
Mm.
Like, which isn't UFOs, but
Right.
like the zombies in that,
Yeah.
and the relationship.
And that
to
was kind of that
feels-
void that it filled. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was his intent of this. He's obviously a huge horror film himself. And it's just kind of like a funny story. There was a tweet that went out after a fan saw Nope, and they called Jordan Peele the greatest horror director of all time. He is up there with me, so he would probably hate me too. To which Jordan Peele replied, "I love your enthusiasm, but I will not tolerate any John Carpenter slander."
Yes, love.
I mean, there's interviews, Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, it's Nightmare on Elm Street, right? It's like one of his favorite. Oh my god,
That
why
makes
did I just
sense.
blank? So yeah, I love that he's like, that's lovely, but like these greats came before me and they're why I am how I am. So
I think is Nightmare Wes Craven. Am I
yeah, it's
remembering
not
that right?
Nightmare. What am I thinking
Yeah,
of?
Nightmare's Wes Craven. Halloween is John Carpenter.
It wasn't Halloween.
He
did that, like, interview.
Prince of Darkness.
It's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, he says Freddy Krueger's the best.
Yeah,
horror
yeah.
movie ever.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, horror history buff, he gives it to the greats before he ever wants to give it to himself.
Ugh.
He will be one of the greats.
Yeah.
So budget of this one, knowing that we did the 4.5, the 20, and then I'm very curious now that he's like, I mean, he blew it out of the water
my
of
God,
success.
yeah.
Everyone's like super anticipating his next film. Curious of what you think the budget was for this. I think you're gonna nail it, to be fair.
In
You're
terms
really
of
good.
what we see on screen, I don't think you could possibly shoot this for less than like 60 million, but I'm gonna guess 80.
Oh my god, you were like right on those. It was 68 million. So right in the middle
that.
spot. Between the 60 and 80, almost 70. So by far he like
Yeah.
really, what is that, tripled? I don't know math. Really he over doubled his budget. Math, guys. So, I can't do numbers
Yeah, that is
like
more than triple. Yeah.
it is it?
Mhm.
Okay. So he got what I think he deserves for this.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, any less, and I think he would have had. You'll hear as we kind of talk about some of the building of the sets, everything like that.
It needed it.
he needed
like
it.
the vision would have
It's
been
beautiful.
compromised for
It's
any less.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So we have. Speaking of, we have production designer. We want to shout out Ruth DeJong.
Yes.
DeJong.
What do I recognize her name from? Because I know I've seen her on like
Oh my
I
God,
know
why did I
that
not
name.
write down what she was. I'm gonna have travel look. I don't know why I didn't write what she was in. I might have it later in
Okay.
it. Again, I like
Yeah.
crammed stuff.
I'm
So I
so
have really
sorry.
great quotes from her later.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So when Jordan Peele kind of began talking about Nope, she worked on Us with him prior. So
Cool.
he had not, when he started talking to her, he didn't have any sort of script. And she said, quote, "It's so funny going back and reading my notes because we started talking about this a year before we actually started the physical prep of figuring out what Nope is." So she was on board. She believed in the vision. And I'm so curious of what those initial concepts were.
Well, especially because both of these are films where it really is so, the production design is so key.
Oh God. And that's like, it's a chunk because
It's one of my favorite
so
things
cool.
to talk about.
And they did it right. They like
Mhm.
they held to what they wanted.
Is this set in modern day? Is that?
You know, I don't talk about time, but I believe so.
Because I know we see the Gordy incident is like 98, I
Yeah.
think they say. Or like it's
I don't
sometime
think it's
in the
any. I
90s?
think it's supposed to be
More or less. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And for me, kind of going back to when we were talking about It Follows, I feel like it can live anytime.
That's kind of what I was thinking because there's like quite a nostalgic feeling to some of the spaces in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there was an intended time frame or just to exist.
Yeah.
We have cinematographer. Oh my God, Trav's gonna know how to say his name. Hoyt van Hoytema.
Hoyte van Hoytema? Is that right?
Hoyt van Hoytema.
Basically.
Yeah.
Hoyt.
Hoyt.
Boy, oh boy, I feel like everyone probably knows about him. He's a Dutch-Swedish director of photography. He did 2013's Her, 2014 Interstellar, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, speaking of space. 2017's Dunkirk, and then I almost didn't throw this in, but I'm going to do it anyways. You Hate It, Oppenheimer. He did that. Sorry.
Oh, I'm very aware of it.
I almost didn't put it in. So we're just going to acknowledge that we have not, I will not see that film because of everything you've taught me to stand for here in New Mexico. So we're not watching that film.
His cinematography is gorgeous, but
Yeah. It's a paycheck.
Yeah,
Get it,
for sure.
baby. We have sound designer Johnny Byrne. He did 2023's Poor Things. 2015's The Lobster, and 2023's The Zone of Interest, which I'm not. Have you seen that? I haven't seen it.
Oh, the sound design is amazing.
Well, yeah, he sounds. The sounds in this.
He's really good.
We have visual effects supervisor. I literally don't know how to say this poor man's name.
Dirigible.
Dirigible Jones. This is what I didn't practice.
Guillaume.
Okay, say it again into the mic.
Guillaume Rocheron.
Thank you. We're gonna pretend that's me. I just don't want to mispronounce people's names because we talk about the impact of how that feels for us.
I just want to say one of the things that made me the maddest when I was researching Alien was everybody pronounced Badajo's name Badejo.
Oh,
It's not a Spanish name. It's not Badejo. It's Badajo.
weird.
Yeah.
See,
Anyway,
so I never want to say the wrong thing. So thank you for reading that aloud. He did visual effects for 2019's Ad Astra, which we'll talk about later. So put a pin in that. 2011's Sucker Punch, which I fucking love that movie. I don't care what anyone says. Godzilla King of Monsters. He did some Harry Potters. I think he did some other Godzillas. So he's very familiar with big budget
Monsters.
action monsters. Getting to the cast. And sorry if I'm like running through. I just want to have the breathing room to talk about some things. Starring the best cast put together. Fuck it ever. Daniel Kaluuya as OJ.
and such a good especially I love when you see an actor-director combo work together multiple times and do something so drastically different like this. Like the OJ is so different from his character in Get Out.
Yeah. I love this man. He's most known obviously for Get Out, Black Panther, and then I am noting he is one of my favorite episodes of Black Mirror that ever existed ever. It is probably one of my most watched, Trav can attest, Black Mirror episodes ever. He's in 15 Million Merits. It's in one of the earlier seasons. I almost want to say it's season 1. I love that episode. If you are a fan of him in these two films specifically in this, because he doesn't have a ton of dialogue. I think this man is one of the best eye actors of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
And in 15 Million Merits, the Black Mirror episode, there is like no dialogue. It is just this man on screen acting with his face and his eyes.
I need that.
And it's it's beautiful, and he is beautiful, and I love him. So like everyone needs to go revisit Black Mirror. I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough. And I always forget too, I wanted to throw this in. He's in Skins, and I always forget he's in Skins because this man is not British to me, but he's the most British person I've ever seen in my life.
His American accent is impeccable.
He's one of the few that can fool me.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced he is British.
I keep gaslighting myself into thinking that I'm wrong that he was in Skins because of that, because the American accent is so good.
Yeah, him and like Tom Holland kind of live in this space of like, I don't believe it. So just throwing that out there. To casting Daniel in this role, Jordan Peele says Daniel is his favorite actor in the world, so it was a no-brainer.
A
no-brainer. And we shut our book. Thank you for coming here today. Every episode, you got one. To that, he said, or to Daniel, he said, quote, he couldn't wait any longer to work with him again. One of the things I admire most about him is his powerful stillness, which nobody else has it. He doesn't need words to communicate his thoughts or emotions. In the scariest and quietest moments, you know exactly what he's feeling and experiencing just by looking at him. And that's so powerful. His big eyes, his body language, he brings so much emotion. So just to that point, that's why Jordan Peele loves him so much and why I love him so much. So yeah, 15 Million Merits. Please go watch it after this. I'm going to force you to watch it at some point. We obviously have Keke Palmer as M, or Emerald is her full name. She's in the Scream TV series as Kim. I didn't know there was a Scream.
Oh, Scream Queens.
She's also in that.
She's
in Scream and Scream Queens.
I didn't realize that was a separate show. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I had to write it because I was like, which do I say first, Scream Queens or Scream?
Well, I know Scream Queens because Gracie, one of my two leads, one of my two.
I started watching the first season
in Scream Queens.
I got to revisit that one because it was fun when I watched it. I know her as being a Disney Channel original movie star in Jump In, and I watched that because I was obsessed with Corbin Bleu at the time, who was in High School Musical. So she has always been a Disney kid for me.
Love.
Who's had the most insane career from it, and I'm obsessed with her.
She's so wonderful.
Yeah. So just kind of like a little fact about her on set. When we see her on screen delivering that like opening monologue to the crew, it actually took them how many days? 14 days to do that shoot, because every time they did it with her, they did something different, and so they got a different performance. So I think they like gave her room to play around. Whoa. Isn't that wild? I'm assuming just every day they did a different take of it. That scene to get it right. But I love it so much because when she says like it's our great like grandpa, and he's like great, and she's like another great.
Yeah.
It's just that line in itself shows the dynamic of like, this is just her spiel. She's not emotionally invested in this ranch in the same way that her brother is, and just that moment sets up so much.
Yeah, well, and it shows us we learn later that she's just memorized her dad's speech word for word, and so like of course that's why he's
there's only the two
great. Yeah.
So it just sets up so much, and then I don't want to know even what the other one sounded like because this one's so perfect.
Yeah, it's the right one.
Yeah. We have Steven Yeun as Jupe, or Ricky, which I think
him. Steven Yeun. His performance in Minari is like,
I haven't seen him in anything else.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you hadn't seen Minari, and I was like,
yeah, I haven't seen him in that. I haven't seen him in literally anything other than this.
I think you'd really like it.
I'd probably love it. Anything he does.
Like it's so good.
Yeah. So he's in that. He's also Glenn in The Walking Dead, which I also have not watched.
Have not seen either. Yeah.
One of the so there was like a lead role that was actually supposed to be offered to Jesse Plemons, which I think is really funny. Everyone speculates that it's the role of Jupe, but he was shooting Killers of the Flower Moon at the time. But
I think Steven Yeun is much more interesting cast. Like
I love
Jesse Plemons. No shade on Jesse Plemons.
This feels right.
Yeah. Well, and I think also especially because so much of this movie is about like the unseen presence of people of color in westerns and Western history. And I think having Steven Yeun,
a very white man,
I think would have detracted from that a little bit.
Yeah. So everything worked out for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have Brandon Pereira as Angel. He's in the TV series The OA, and then also if you've seen the new movie Twisters, he plays a character called Boone, and he's really funny in that. I looked at his IMDb. He is not in a lot, but I love this man on screen.
I feel like he's gonna go on to a good career off of this.
Hope so, because again, he's not in a ton of things. I feel like Twister might, like, these two seem to be his biggest projects. And for his character of Angel, Jordan Peele originally wrote the character as like this happy-go-lucky guy, and oh my god, Brandon came in and kind of wanted to ground the character a little bit more, so he had some say in that. And if it kind of feels like, it has that like fake death of like you think he's gone, but then he's like alive, it's because he originally was supposed to die, but Brandon basically like worked with Jordan and was like, I think they wrote like they wrote like 4 other endings for him. And he finally convinced them to rewrite so his character survives at the end of it. So gotta love him for that. Yeah. He's like, please don't kill me. Please don't. We have Michael Wincott as Antlers Holst. He plays Top Dollar in 1994's The Crow, which we will cover at some point, we promise.
I also feel like the name has to be Van Hoytema, like in joke that he's called Holst.
Yeah. Like yeah, we have a meaning behind his name. I don't know if it's that specific. He was also in 1991's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and then my new comfort movie, The Three Musketeers from the 90s. I've watched the movie a bunch. So Antler Holst's character name is named after the composer Gustav Holst. Which I know, I always am like waiting for you to know exactly what I'm talking about. And Gustav kind of translates, it's the Scandinavian translation is God's staff or staff of the gods. And the staff of Scandinavian gods always had antlers. Either at the tip or they were made from antlers. So again, the layers of like, that's what I'm saying. Like some of these, I'm like, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole. Yeah. So if I miss stuff that you are all fans of, I'm sorry. There's so many things. Yeah. We have Terry Notary as Gordy. So obviously we did not use real chimps on this film. That would be
as they say
wild
in the film.
Choice to do. Terry is very familiar with kind of doing this mocap primates.
Is he a Planet of the Apes guy?
He is.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Planet of the Apes. He plays Rocket. He plays Kong in Kong Skull Island from 2017. He was also uncredited as a clown in Cabin in the Woods. And he is the on-set Groot in Marvel films. So I think he's just puppeteering.
On-set Groot.
And he's a goblin in like the Hobbit movies too. So he's like the guy.
He's a mocap guy
for a lot of these, which is very cool to have on a set like this. We have
great performance too.
Oh my god, Gordy fucks me up. We're gonna get to chimps later.
I'm
this,
glad because I need to take some time.
That's why I'm trying to like get through this so we can like. I want to settle in the back end of my notes. Hopefully, I'm not speaking too quickly. I'm so sorry.
This is great.
We have Keith David as the dad or Otis Haywood. Obviously, we all will recognize him from Childs as in The Thing, and then he's also in Frank. He's Frank in the '88 They Live, which I still not seen.
I haven't seen either.
Yeah.
I also believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's in Duster, which just came out on HBO and shot in New Mexico as well.
Oh, yeah. I do not know. I did not. I usually Trav's shaking his head.
Yes, he is.
I usually scroll back in people's credits.
No,
that's so funny.
I haven't watched it yet. The only reason I know that is because my lead actor Jasper just posted a photo of him and Keith David together, and he was on Duster. So
this man has the longest IMDb credit I've ever seen.
He's a legend.
The scrolling I had to do between now and 2022's Nope was insane.
I can't even imagine.
I don't think he sleeps.
Yeah,
I don't think this man
constantly
sleeps.
Working.
He is just sleeping on sets. That's his home. He just travels in a little RV. But even like just the tiny bit he's on screen, he's just like everything to the story. That opening. Did amazing. You just die?
Oh my god,
it's so good. What a setup. The sound. The way they show everything, how it unfolds.
Eye horror, love some eye horror.
It's so gross. It's so brutal. And then, of course, we have Oz Perkins as the director. Yes. He does have a name. His name's Finn. I know. So, obviously, Norman
Bates.
Yeah,
Bates'
Anthony
son.
Perkins.
Yeah.
I said it. Oh, what did I write? I wrote, he's one of our favorite Nepo babies that now has gone on to director. And then he is newly rumored. Old news for you listening now. New news to us. I think I sent it to one of us sent it to the podcast Instagram. He's rumored to be making the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Neon.
Yes.
So it's rumored, and I'm like, he you know what? Yeah, you can do that.
I feel like
we'll see.
could.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I could trust him with that.
So concept, and like script, like how did we get this? So
Yes.
obviously we know where he's coming from. Jordan Peele wants to make this film that he feels doesn't exist and he wished someone would have made for himself. He cites a lot of things
I
directly.
can only imagine.
I'm sure there's more. There's a couple indirect things that I saw. Again, I like love going on
Ooh.
Reddit and just like reading what people are thinking about the films
That's
that we
so
cover.
satisfying.
So he cites 1933's King Kong,
Mm.
1939's Wizard of Oz, 1993's Jurassic Park, 2002's Signs, and I saved it for last because I almost thought about pairing this film with Alien, and I didn't realize he cites it. 1977's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is
that
like
makes
one of my favorite
sense. That makes
movies.
perfect sense.
Next year we'll do another Alien
Mhm.
round of things. So he kind of is influenced by all these films, and he considers these films examples of the addiction to spectacle. And so put a pin in that. That's one of our themes that we're going to talk about later. And not sourced directly. So speculation. I don't know if you knew this film existed, but a lot of people have made the connection for 1958's The Crawling Eye, which shares a very major element with Nope, which is that they kind of follow this family on vacation and they're terrorized by an ominous cloud. And that monster kind of like hides in the clouds as well. So I didn't deep dive on what that movie is. I think there's a couple other similarities with it. So whether he knew about that or it was, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Sometimes you just come up with the same ideas.
Yeah. I want to say there's only so many ideas, but like
Yeah.
there's a lot of them. And then also while researching this a lot, he also cites Jaws, but someone did a breakdown on YouTube, and I think I have it in my sources. Someone did like a 20-minute breakdown of Jaws and Nope just side by side. And so I would say if you're a fan of Jaws, structurally, sound, camera techniques, like you will like these share
makes
so much in common.
sense, just in terms of also kind of the genre space they occupy, and that they're both like
It's
both
wild.
films have a lot of scares, but like I was surprised by how much of Nope didn't feel like it was living in a horror space specifically to me as much as
We talked about it. I was trying to rack my brain of what movie I talked about it on, and we'll get to that too. The idea of terror versus horror.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so this leans into the terror in the
Terror.
same way Jaws does. So
Totally.
pin in
Yeah.
that as well.
Love.
Again, there's like
So many pins.
I know. Me and you could literally.
Yeah.
I think we could sit here for 8 hours and talk about both
we
these
are
movies.
currently Pinhead. Yeah.
Truly put pins everywhere. Jordan Peele said he wrote this script, quote, at a time when we were a little bit worried about the future of cinema. Again, this came out in 2022, so pandemic still feels very fresh in 2022. So the first thing I knew is I wanted to create a spectacle. I wanted to create something that the audience would have to come see.
Siena Theater.
Oh,
that
man.
is
Yeah. Yeah. And then he goes on to say at the time he felt society for a while had been, quote, living through a bad miracle, just like they are in this film, and wanted to use his nightmares to tell this story. And then he wanted the key elements of the film to include how we observe spectacle and our own addiction to it. So again, the layers, it's like an 80-layer cake. To the title, Jordan Peele says he chose Nope as the title specifically because he wanted to acknowledge what the audience reaction to the film would be. So he kind of added in an interview, like he wanted this to be a ride for people in the same way that Final Destination is a ride, in a very different way. And he talked about when you tell people that it's a scary movie or a horror movie, they immediately go like, nope, don't want to see it. And he was hoping to encourage those people and acknowledging that by the title that they would maybe come see it, even if they weren't a horror film, because he was addressing that this would be their reaction. So I kind of love that he's being playful with not his audience base and trying to get those in and asking himself, how do I get them here? So it was kind of cute too, just to kind of like show you who he is as we kind of move into things. He talked about making Nope in I think it's the Blu-ray behind the scenes. I could only find snippets of it, so I realized my DVD doesn't have it.
No,
it's just the Blu-ray. He said, like, I tried to write a script I couldn't pull off, that he didn't think he could pull off, and then I assembled a team to pull it off. And he gives a lot of credit to everyone in their department, even those department heads speaking to camera in these interviews, to just talk about how much he trusts them to do their job and how supported that they felt. So he really was like, I can't do this by myself. Here's my part. I need you all to come and do your part. So that just kind of like, I just love him. He's such a little nerd when he talks about movies too. I did move up my themes. Okay. I felt like we were going to start talking about it. So I had it at the end, and I was like, because normally I put themes at the end. Brought them to the forward. So
Fantastic.
at its core, Jordan Peele said that it's, which no one really talks about this as much, but he said at its core, it's really about the brother and sister dynamic. So that's
That makes
really the
sense.
story that he wanted to tell, is showing these siblings that kind of have always been so wildly different goals, whatever, and like how have they kind of come through this, and you can see their connection kind of grow, that it's still like blood relation, that they're in
Yeah.
it together. So that was the story he really wanted to tell, and that's so simple,
I
and it's
love
so
that.
beautiful. Like one of my favorite things in the film, which they did it a few different ways if you watch behind the scenes, but even them just like when they clap their hands together 3 times,
They're little in jokes with each other.
and they're so brother and sister, the dynamic between. So that's where he really wanted this to be. But of course, we have so many themes that you could run through this. The main 3 that I think are talked about the most, or that he, I think hit you over the head a little bit the most, is exploitation of in Hollywood, both with human and animals alike. So that's what covers that, and the human addiction to spectacle, kind of from that, you know. So he kind of had this question of what happens when money becomes involved in that. So that's kind of where this all stems from. One of the very first lines of the film is about a rocket scientist and his pet chimp, to the point he kind of he realized it's like he can't tell time on his watch, and so kind of this showing of putting this kind of human motive on something that does not have the same thought process, and so, you know, because of that, it puts these people in every spot in this film in a situation where they expect them to react one way and then they don't. So the popping of the balloons is a very big thing. That's what sets them off, is because obviously a chimp's not going to react to that noise in the same way a human would. And even tying that back to the creature, you know, thinking he's going to act one way, we obviously have, he eats the balloon, jupe. So there's all this kind of layering that happens there. And even like in the beginning too, we see that the film crew doesn't respect the horse's boundaries, and it kind of lashes out because of it. And so eventually we see OJ kind of have that wraparound moment where he realizes they're not respecting this creature's boundaries, and that's why he's getting so kind of riled up and upset and angry. So it's I just wish I could talk so much about these. So Jordan Peele kind of, again, in some interviews, wraps it up and kind of reflects on how you can't tame a predator is a big thing in this, and how mankind will always risk everything for spectacle. So Jupe, for example, thinking, you know, he's hit this miracle and he can do this thing from what happened in his childhood, and now he's coming back around thinking he can just be above nature to a point. And so talking about kind of where that stems from with Jupe, I kind of love, there's a lot of talk about the scene with the shoe, and that miracle. There's a lot of talk about miracles in this. There's like a bunch of things with that. I don't know if I talk about it here. I got to double check. I'm like reorganizing these
Well, and
notes.
obviously we see from the set design that Jupe has kept that shoe pointed up still and framed it like that. So clearly he's thinking a lot about the idea of miracles.
Which there's some real practical reasons around that too. I don't know where. Okay, I get to it after this. So just talking about the nature, again, we see Antlers, who's kind of editing his footage, all of them looking right in the eye. There's a lot of eye imagery. We even open, I think it's fun, like the first time you watch this film too, we get looking into the eye of the beast immediately. You kind of don't know what you're looking at when the credits are starting. You think it's like a hallway or like a spacecraft or whatever, and it's literally the eye of the beast that we see. So there's a lot of that imagery woven in, and just the idea of kind of like nature and predator is obviously ducking from cloud to cloud and moving like a wolf would stalk its prey, of being hidden. Okay, I do have the shoe thing. So there's some practical reasons. People say like it's a ked, and keds are made with like flat, like the way the rubber is sculpted. It's really easy for shoes to do that. So again, going back to Jupe thinking it's this miracle, and really like it's the shoe.
It's nature.
It's nature. It's design. And also people kind of talk about how that's the idea of waiting for the other shoe to drop. So we're kind of waiting for that next moment, and I fucking love that.
Well, and it also I mean, I'm sure it's no surprise to anybody listening that I'm not the biggest fan of Inception, but it felt to me very much like that's doing the thing that Inception is doing, but in a way that hit me harder.
I dropped a D&D dice the other day when I was taking pictures at work, and it spun, and it wouldn't stop, and I was like, "What's my thing?
The
What's
camera
my thing?
started
Is that me?"
zooming in
Yeah,
on
I was like, "Am I
Al's eye.
live?
Yeah.
What's happening? Am I being Inception?"
Cut to black.
No, it was literally like me, Andy, and I forget Sarah, and I was just like, "Why is it still going? Why is it still going? Why is it stopping?" And it wasn't one that should have spun like that. It was very
I
weird.
hate
It was
that.
very weird. I don't know if I have the time frame of this. We kind of have a rough time frame as we move, like for production of certain parts. I should have brought that in. Anyways, it was mostly shot. So moving on to the production side, it was mostly shot in Santa Clarita and Agua Dulce, California, mainly on a Firestone ranch. So some of that stuff existed.
Wow.
But production designer Ruth, so we have a lot of quotes from her. There's every person on this has multiple articles written about them, multiple quotes from them. So this is me kind of condensing. So production designer Ruth and her team built the entire Haywood Ranch house and like homestead from scratch.
Wow.
So I couldn't get if like, you know, the pens and the paddocks, like I wonder if
Some of that might be.
some of that might have existed since it was a ranch prior. So
But
I kind of didn't know, but the house is all that.
the house I assumed they built because it's so clearly a Texas Chainsaw homage.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, 40 minutes. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
it is such a like classic horror movie house with the
Ah.
whitewashed clapboard front. Like,
I wonder where, so I'll get into their inspiration from it. I'm sure that was
Mm.
part of it too, because does Texas is in, I wonder if they have the same architecture kind of stories, because I don't know much about Texas and like the how homes were built then versus California, because they pulled from California architecture.
both, you know,
But they do look the
yeah,
same.
Southwest frontier. There's like
Yeah.
there's some similarities there. Yeah.
Again, with Jordan Peele, like the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So, Ruth said that she and set designer Jim Hewitt researched mid 1800s and 1900s farmhouses for the build of this. And they kind of like looked up and down the coast of California to kind of pull inspiration. And then in the end, kind of mashed up those homes. So again, being horror fans, I'm sure that they put that in there. She said, quote, "It had a bit of an East Coast vibe, but it's very true to the ranches in California." And that she said she wanted it to melt into the landscape to be iconic. So looking like it existed there the whole time. And I loved this. I love when people do this. She said every detail of the home was completely real. And they built that intentionally. So she said, "We went 6 feet into the ground and made everything completely structurally sound for the crew to bring in dollies up and down the second and third floor." So it was a fully functional home. And this came from a lot of conversations she had with the cinematographer, with Jordan, of like why they wanted to do that. Another key aspect was the ability for the cinematographer to shoot 360. So not only in the home, but outside the home. So again, building something real, especially when they're out like in the country. It made so much sense for them to do. So every bit of this was livable to a sense. To which Ruth said, "I get involved in all aspects of filming, not just how to build the house, but how the crew is going to use it. I didn't want any bogeys or base camp to be seen from any angle. So you make your movie, every minute of every day matters." Jordan is such a great proponent of that and said everything on the entire ranch is a hot set. So they had base camp, like I think, like miles down the road for them, so that they could just exist in the space. Which, as an actor,
It makes
I can't
such a
imagine what that would have
difference.
felt like.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something?
Oh, that's part of why we actually had the actors living on set for part of mine.
The camp.
Both at the camp and actually at the ranch that we shot
right,
partially
right.
at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was all
It's
a
just
hot
like-
set. They were using the kitchen that we were shooting in.
It just like seeps in a way that like
it makes such a difference.
that's where like what do you call it? Like method. I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm okay with that.
That-
That's
yeah.
the good stuff.
Yeah,
That's what
like
everyone
use
should
your
do.
actual kitchen, sure. Don't like mail your co-stars a rat.
Yeah. Don't like hit them.
Yeah.
Or scare them.
Yeah.
Or hurt them. You know,
Send
those
them
things.
used condoms, things like that.
So many stories we have.
And they're all Jared Leto.
Are they really?
Both of those are Jared
Oh,
Leto.
yikes,
Yeah.
man. Ugh, that makes sense.
Yep.
He gives Colt.
Yep.
Ruth also said when she talked to cinematographer Hoyt, that's his name, right? Correct. Before building the house, that if there was like anything he needed from her, which I love that she had this dialogue with him, he said, "Ruth, you design the house the way you want, and I will shoot the house you design." And she said that felt so freeing for her to have. He's like, "No, no, no, like that's your job.
Yeah.
I am here to just do the best I can with that." So she like loved
So
having that freedom.
respectful.
I know. What a concept.
Yeah.
We also have the location of Fry's Electronics. It was actually the Fry's that I went to in
Aw.
Burbank. It had closed down prior to them shooting this, though. And so co-founder Randy, his name's Randy Fry, I know that. So he was kind of like dismantling everything. It was already closed. So when they kind of initially reached out, and like I think other productions had reached out too, he denied everyone. But they had someone from Monkey Paw Productions kind of like write a letter to him, and I think because of his love of sci-fi and everything, he
Aw.
finally kind of accepted. And so he made sure when they were kind of dismantling stuff, he left a lot of things in there for them to use, so, like merch, all the things on the I think shelves even. I think he just waited, but again, because he was such a love of like sci-fi specifically.
Amazing.
And that one was based off of, oh my God, which one did they base? The Day the Earth Stood Still is the one that was based off of. So I think they kind of met on this common
so
ground and they got
cool.
lucky. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to go to that location. So it was it's
Aw.
fun to see it on screen. Kind of going back to the house, the practical house paid off for them, mainly when it was covered in blood.
Such a
Which
great
is so cool.
shot.
To
The way
pull,
it dries on the outside too looks so real.
I know, like the next day.
That's
Oh, they never
great.
show that. They always show wet.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
they
dry.
always they always show it wet and then cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
Or
How are you gonna
yeah.
clean them? You're just that's your house now.
Yeah,
just
that's your house
spray
now.
paint it red
Yeah.
or rub the blood around. I don't know. You know.
Just like turn it into a nice pink wash on everything.
Yeah. So real organic wash on that house. So to pull off that sequence, they had a large rain bar system that I feel like we're very used to seeing,
Mhm.
but they loaded it with. I love that they didn't load it with like red water. They
Yeah.
loaded it with gallons of fake blood.
Oh my god.
Which I can only imagine is so heavy.
That's also some very Nightmare on Elm Street shit to do.
Right. I would have killed to be on set that day. So it took them several days to get all the interior shots when that's happening and the exterior shots. And then they worked. So again, like everything's done practically on this. They worked with the special and visual effects team to saturate the ground. So really the only thing that you see that's kind of post is just the ground. Otherwise everything really was just rained down on that house.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Ruth said to like everything being practical, even the stuff we strapped on the roof, we were throwing everything up there, a wheelchair, an ice cream machine, and it was a lot of fun to shoot. There's a lot of nods too to like other characters, like I think the one character with her little like scooter that's up there. I think I don't know if it's that scene, but Jupe's hat we see at some point like fly down from the vomiting alien. So it's just so satisfying as like a I Spy book in that scene. She said also, it's so satisfying to do a movie as practically as possible. It's an achievement, which it really is. And speaking of real sets, Jupiter's Claim location is also a set that they built. The studio and so Universal Studios at the time and the producers did not want them to build. They wanted them to go
Find a
location
location.
shop. And Jordan Peele was like, if I do, I don't know if I have a quote from him. If he does anything, he said he does not location shop. He wanted to build the set for them.
Interesting.
So kind of with that fighting, they kind of got away with it. I don't know if they believed him. So they pulled a lot of things together to show that they could do it. So I think they did like a rendering of it and then brought it back to the team, and everyone was like, we've never seen anything like this before, so like we have to do it.
Yeah, you're not gonna find that location.
No,
Like that doesn't exist.
No. It took them 14 weeks to build that town that we see, and during that time, so the way they kind of shot it is they did all the other locations first.
While
So
that's
while they
getting
were
built,
doing that,
that
they were
makes
building
sense.
Jupiter's Claim. And so at the end of wrapping his day, Jordan Peele would go over there and see the progress of the
Oh, I
set
love
and get really
that.
excited
That's
about
so
it. I know, how
cute. That's his little
fun.
treat at the
Yeah,
end.
it reminds me, didn't Spielberg do that on like E.T.? Like someone popped over and
Probably.
like was watching what he was doing.
That's
But yeah,
so cute.
so they would go over and they would discuss like changes and like what needs to happen. And okay, it took them months apparently to come up with the concept of this town. They took inspiration from Knott's Berry's Farm, which I love, which
Amazing.
is like a little theme park in California. And Western towns was staples that had like the post office, the saloons, and brothels. I love that they put in there too. And so kind of the end result we see is a functional theme park, to which I don't know if they did a recreation of it. I thought they brought it over, but they did a recreation of Jupiter's Claim that now lives in the Universal lots.
Oh my
and then they had like a
God.
Horror Nights. I'm so jealous I've not been able
That's
to see it.
so cool.
I want merch. So
Yeah.
bad. But again, everything that they had, they just built to be working.
That's
So,
amazing.
props on them. Again, that budget
Yeah.
went where it needed to go.
Yeah.
So I have some nerdy camera stuff for you.
Yes.
Some of it I will understand. There's a part where I read the cameras to you that I will not
Fantastic.
understand. I don't know if you know some of what I'm going to say in this because I feel like it was one of the. I feel like this was like the first fact I learned about the film. We'll get to it. I'm not starting off there, but Nope was the first horror film to be filmed with an IMAX camera,
I do
which
think I knew that,
Sinners already did as well. So
Oh,
I
I
just love
love
that
that.
from Nope to Sinners.
Did you see
I've not
Monkey
seen it yet.
Paw posted? I haven't seen it yet either, but Monkey Paw, we follow them on Beastly.
Mhm.
They posted a congratulations post about Sinners.
No,
And
as
it's,
they
it is the
should.
sweetest thing I've
No.
ever seen.
It's gonna make me
really
cry.
cute.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was cool. It's the first like R-rated and first horror film. And then to come, full circle with,
That's
with
so
Sinners
cool.
a couple years later. So one of the things, okay, this is what I think. So one of the things that I don't know if you know about is that most, if not, I think pretty much all of the night scenes were shot in the day.
It looked like day for night to me. Yeah. Which,
Ugh,
like, I think
so good.
you need to do it for a story like this because shooting actual night, you're not going to get cloud detail. And the cloud detail is so
It's
important.
so important. Although the clouds in this, the skies were completely
That makes
digital.
sense that those are, yeah.
But I loved this. In an IndieWire interview, they called the night scenes, quote, an eerily magical stretch of air that Crayola might call day for night periwinkle. And I need a crayon that's called day for night
so
periwinkle.
gorgeous. Yes.
Jordan Peele actually says he literally does not know how him and Hoyt did it. In a lot of ways, we stood on the backs of some of the work that he's done in past films to develop this new technique that they discovered together. So again, giving credit. So how did they achieve this effect? This is where I'm going to get nerdy, and I do kind of understand this part. I will read the camera names, so those
Cool.
mean absolutely nothing to me. But
Great.
they might be something to you and people listening. So they shot it by mounting two cameras on a decommissioned 3D stereo camera rig.
Okay.
And so they aligned those cameras so that they could capture them both at the same time. That makes sense. So that when they could kind of seamlessly overlay these images together in post to then create this unique look that we see. Here's where the cameras come in. He used a 70mm Panavision film camera and a digital ARRI Alexa 65
Interesting.
camera light, question mark. And then rigged up in a 3D camera so that they were set, like I said, to take the image at one time so they could overlay, which is similar to how, where I said to put that pin, we're going to take that pin out, where they're in Ad Astra that the cinematographer worked on, the lunar chase sequence was done kind of the same way. So he kind of brought that over.
Cool.
So he kind of knew what he was doing, which I'm sure Jordan was like, thank fuck.
Fantastic. Yeah, we need
this
that.
is awesome. On top of that, they also had to expand the aspect ratio to fit the IMAX because the digital camera,
Yeah.
that's where we didn't have the overlay. But they said
Makes
it
sense.
was fine because they literally, like I said, they took out the sky anyways and digitally composited that. So they were like, that was
They're
not
not
an
using that
issue.
much of. Yeah.
So that is where my camera nerd ends because that's all I could digest.
Fantastic.
And I think it's pretty digestible. So I
Yeah.
just kind of love how
so-
kind of
That's really
simple,
cool.
but again, like it's what makes this film look so I don't know. I feel like you can just bask in the nighttime and the way it
Well,
was.
To put the cameras a little bit more in perspective,
Please
the Arri
do.
Alexa that you're talking about is the
Mhm.
same thing that
Arri.
It Follows was shot on.
Oh.
So, or same camera family, at
Got
least.
it.
It Follows obviously was an earlier edition of it from
Oh,
2014,
and that
but
one looks so good.
people love the Arri Alexas because their color science is a little bit more similar to film cameras than
Got
like
it.
a Red.
That
is,
makes
for
sense.
example.
Okay. Thank you for
Yeah.
the context. I'm like, that's why I'm like, I'm just saying this. If you and Trav have something to add, please do.
That's all I got. Trav could say a lot more than I
perfect.
could, but
There's articles too. So just saying, I skimmed through. Jordan Peele said what they were able to achieve with the night scenes was, quote, what Hoyt was able to pull off here is an illusion that truly is remarkable and complete. It was hard, but we did it, and we were the first ones, which I love. And there's a reason that when you're in the night scenes in my film, it feels different than any other film you've seen. So he's clearly very proud of this. They're
As he should be.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So moving on to the design of jean jacket.
yes.
Unlike the one that I'm wearing now. And unlike the horse that is named after.
Which I also just love that it gets named Jean Jacket. It's so cute.
Well, it's so great because she never got the
Yeah.
opportunity to tame Jean Jacket with
but
her
she
dad, and she
did.
gets to at the
Yeah.
end. Ah, she's so fucking badass. So in an interview with Days, Jordan Peele confirmed that the design of Jean Jacket's final form that we see in the film was influenced by angels in the 1995 anime Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Evangelion. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I just brought you. Don't look at that one yet. Don't look at that visual.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Visuals for the class.
Mhm.
So they look very similar. There's also other things that kind of came into play too. So we have a few things that came together. It was also partly inspired by visual artist Robert Morris.
Oh,
Are you familiar?
Yeah.
The name sounded really familiar, and I kind of knew about him. So
I wouldn't have put that together, but hearing you say that makes sense.
Yeah. So he also, his works that he did, he was like mainly like sculptural. His themes also talked about or explored manipulation of art for commercial gain and the psychological impact of technology and spectacle. So not only does his stuff kind of look like this, which I also here's to it kind of reminds me of his little mouth that sticks out at the end, that green mouth.
Yeah.
But the themes made sense too. So again, like the layers, and we have some real world animals that we drew upon as well. Because one of my questions was, like, how did they, like, as they're going through his Jean Jacquet's digestional tract, I was wondering, like, how do they die?
Yeah.
I'm like,
does he like dissolve them?
Is there like acid,
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
So I went on the hunt. I found, so they kind of been talking about this again. Everything has a reason for this. So they'd been talking about it long before they even had a script of like what would this alien be? How would it kind of move about the world? Yeah, how would it eat? And so Jordan Peele said he really wanted to explore the visual language of Jean Jacket and kind of took all those sources together. So he kind of looked at classic sci-fi depictions of UFOs, obviously, as one. He looked at sea creatures and even origami paper and how things were kind of folded together, which is where I think the artist influence comes in. But on top of that visual language, they did talk about the digestion of this creature, and they thought about it, and they did a lot of research on it. So it's based on a giant larvacean. I don't know if I'm saying that right, which I have a picture of. So not only does it look like it, but it digests the same. And I think it's a very common, like, how, like, these organisms in the sea kind of digest anyways. But they're marine invertebrates that use a specialized digestive system to process food captured in their mucus filters. I know, sorry. These filters are known as like houses, and they kind of trap all these particles of drifting debris, and that's kind of how they like dissolve and eat them. So this is what they look like, which I think that looks like Jean Jacket.
That totally does.
So not only does it,
that's so
cool.
Yeah, because I was thinking it reminded me a lot of a manta ray at times.
Yeah,
like just the shape.
We were even saying like a Venus flytrap, the way it kind of closes and like
Totally.
absorbs into the system,
Which very much feels like part of the creature design in Alien too, with the eggs, the way they open up, feels very Venus flytrap to me.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially like visually. This one not so much visually, but in concept of digestion. So I love that they went back
That's
to
so
explore that much
cool.
because I was like, I had that question and it was fucking
Yeah,
answered,
of
which is a
course.
lovely feeling to have. So speaking of being based on real life, real things, obviously right out the gate, we have the history that Em and OJ talk about
Mhm.
with the clip of the jockey riding a horse as their great-great-grandfather, great-great-great-grandfather, the Muy Bridge film, as we know the name. I didn't realize it goes under two names too specifically. I thought it was just the one. So obviously it's that is film history.
Mhm.
It's photographs from 1878. The first movie and pictures ever called Sally Gardner at a Gallop, which is what I've heard of,
Mhm.
or The Horse in Motion. So
That's what I've
depending on
heard
what,
of.
yeah, how funny.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
weird.
The other one, I was like, oh, there's two names it
Yeah.
goes by. So in case you were wondering, they're the same thing. Sally Gardner is the name of the horse, and the jockey, obviously, like they kind of said, or they didn't say it because it's their grandfather, but in real life, no one really knows who the jockey is. So there's two names that people kind of speculate.
Mm.
C Marvin, so just an abbreviation, or G Dom are
Hmm.
the two names that people kind of speculate it could be one of these people. I don't know where that is
Mhm.
found and how that works. But he's also, there is no race assigned to that jockey in the real world. They don't
Mhm.
know if it was a black man. They don't know if it was a white man or any other race.
Interesting.
So the fact that this could be their great grandfather,
Uh-huh.
because there's such a mystery around who
Yeah.
this jockey was, it perfectly makes sense. So I love that they saw that gap. And
Yeah. Well, you know, and just being from New Mexico, part of what it made me think about was like some of the earliest shorts that were ever made were of native dances.
Mm.
And so it's like this interesting
Oh,
moment where
ooh.
really, really early in film history, you see a lot of people of color in front of the camera. And then
Yeah.
like by like 1911, 1912, it's all white folks.
Yeah.
And
For
so
white folks putting on brown face.
yeah, exactly. Or
unfortunately.
that.
Yay.
But so like because of that, it was making me think of some of that early history of like this when the industry was so new, there were a lot more people of color.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's, we love to erase.
yeah,
the
we
white
sure
the
do.
white folk really love to do that, huh?
But it also, honestly, I don't know if this was something that was a reference for Jordan Peele, but even thinking about the creature design of Jean Jacket, like some of the ways that like his eyes unfold when like all of the like strings come off of it made me think of like Pueblo Raincloud pottery designs. Like the kind of geometric shapes you get on that.
I bet. I don't know. Again,
I wouldn't put it past him, you know?
Yes. Well, looking at Robert Morris's art, you see a lot of
Mhm.
that kind of fabric stripped,
Totally,
ripped, and these
yeah.
kind of like tendrils almost. So
Mhm.
yeah, I can only imagine he had many art books in front of
Yes.
him. I also wanted to point out too, just with not knowing the race of the jockey,
Mhm.
I didn't know. I mean, we're going to talk about the history of cowboys for like a half a second.
Mhm.
But I didn't realize too, back in like 1875, even at the first Kentucky Derby, 13 out of 15 of those jockeys were black. And I didn't realize the
That's
history of
fucking
black
sick.
jockeys.
That's
I knew the history of black cowboys.
yeah, I knew black cowboys.
I didn't know it also. I mean, it makes sense. Maybe that's a duh thing, but I just thought that was a
That's
really
so
cool fact too, that even though we in the world we live in now don't know the race of that
Mhm.
jockey,
There's
it
a lot of
probably
good
was.
reason to assume.
Yeah, so I just thought that was like, I
That's
love
so
it.
cool.
We also see a nod to that image again when OJ's hiding in the shed and the horse runs by the slat. So we
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
how they
see
shot
that.
it. Yeah.
It's so cool. So they kind of give that nod back. And then just like the tiniest kind of like history. Obviously we know black cowboys existed.
Mhm.
They were the 1st. Of
Mhm.
course, we love to whitewash
Mhm.
history here in America. But to that, Jordan Peele chose the 1972 cowboy film Buck and the Preacher to feature with posters in the film that you kind of see. And he said, quote, "It was the first film that I know of that had black cowboys represented in it. The myth that cowboys were just white guys running around is just not true.
Mhm.
But we don't know that because of Hollywood and the romanticized view of a very brutalized era. This film shares a similar spirit." So, I mean, it's again a very obvious theme in this, but I just wanted to give that quote to us. This is where it gets dark, and I'm sorry, and this is where we're taking the pin out of the chimp.
Oh boy, yeah.
Sorry. So I don't know if you know any of this history. We actually just watched Chimp Crazy,
Oh god.
which is a docu-series. I want to say, is that Max? On Max? I do not like chimps because I don't like them in the context that I don't think they should be ever locked up, ever used. Like, the intelligence behind their eyes actually scares me.
That is like
That
a
is
human being.
That is a human. There are lots of thoughts. It's the same how I feel about like whales and
dolphins.
Yeah, but I forced my exposure therapy. I watched Chimp Crazy, which I'm so happy I did because this all makes sense now to me.
It very much, I don't know the history, but it seemed like I was like, that probably really happened.
We're gonna dig in.
Yeah.
So the Gordy the chimp is the chimp in this. While there's like a few instances, unfortunately, because we can't learn lessons, of chimps hurting and or killing their human owners. Again, Chimp Crazy really kind of delves into this world and actually features and talks about a chimp that this film directly points to. So there's, like I said, notable instances that exist, but this one is involving the 2009 attack involving a famous chimp named Travis. I tried to look up his IMDb. I think they took it down. He was like in, and it, not your generation, our generation. He was like in anything with a chimp. He was like that chimp star. Chimp Crazy kind of talks about, you know, chimps live to like fucking like 70 or something like that, 60. So like
similar lifespan to us.
Yeah. And so when they start off their life, they're obviously very easy until they're like 250 pounds and have the strength of like 20 grown men. Yeah. So Travis is the chimp in this attack that happened in 2009. He mauled and disfigured, so did not kill, fortunately. I don't know if you want to say that. Charla Nash, who the owner of Travis at the time, this was her really close friend. She would come over and like there's videos of them like hanging out and like they had like a bond. But like most wild animals, and like we see in this, and that need for spectacle and wanting to have them perform, he snapped. And so he attacked her friend, disfigured her. There's an awful 911 call. The cops roll up, are like terrified because there's just a blood trail everywhere. And they unfortunately, trigger warning, shot the chimp, which pisses me off because he should have never been put in that position in the first place.
It's not the chimp's fault.
Not at all. At all. It's
the human's fault.
And there's a awful fucking, looking back, there's an awful Oprah Winfrey interview.
Oh no.
Which I'm like, man, she did some real questionable things looking back on some of the shit she did, where Charla is in this interview, like, you know, talking, but she's wearing that same veil that we see the character in the film play. Fucking Oprah makes her take it off.
Ew.
It's horrible. It is actually
so yeah, talk about our addiction to spectacle.
Exactly. So so that's kind of, you know, even the way they kind of did her makeup in the film, it very is reminiscent of this instance specifically.
Wow. Well, and there's a Oprah reference in the film too, right? When they're talking about like, what news channel are we going to take it to? Oh, we should take it to Oprah.
Yeah, so that's the like main one I think people talk about. Again, the documentary is, it is, what's The Staircase is the only other docuseries that made me like gasp at the end, and this one made me gasp towards the end.
2009 is so recent.
Oh my God. Yeah. And we like haven't learned. There was also another chimp attack that I wasn't aware of in history. President Ronald Reagan was involved in it. It was
I have heard about this.
I haven't heard of this one. 1951. Bedtime for Bonzo. So we can get where they probably get the name of this show. Like, kind of feels reminiscent.
Yeah, Gordy the chimp feels like a Bonzo.
Yeah, Bedtime for Bonzo. Poor Bonzo. He almost suffocated Reagan, like on the set, by pulling
he'd managed.
by pulling his necktie. But after they got him to break free, apparently the necktie was so tight they had to cut it off of him.
Oh my God.
But again,
I'm
it's
sorry,
like,
but think
we have not learned.
Think of the economy we could have if that chimp had only succeeded.
That's where spectacles. Okay.
Yes.
We're with you. So poor Bonzo. I don't know what happened to him, but there's many cases. I would just say if that part fascinates you in Nope, please watch
I gotta
that
do a
too.
deep
So
dive.
that's a recommendation for me. It's tough and it's sad.
Yeah.
Alan Cummings actually narrates it because he worked in films
Wow.
with Travis. I think it was Travis the chimp, right? Or one of
One of the other one.
the other chimp.
The other chimp.
But he worked with PETA on trying to set a lot of these chimps free because he realized, he goes, we didn't have the dialogue for this
Yeah.
then, but I know better now.
Mhm.
So I kind of love the
love
ownership he
Alan
had
Cummings. He's such a
of
good
this was fucked
human.
up, but I did it
Yeah.
because he
That's-
didn't know better.
Yeah, and like here, I'm gonna try and do something to make
Yeah.
it right.
So
That's
he's
a
like the
good
narrative
man.
in that. So if you also love Alan Cummings,
Love
he's in it.
who doesn't love
who
Alan
doesn't,
Cummings?
truly.
If you listen to this show,
You
you are
love
gay
him,
and
yeah.
you love Alan Cummings.
Absolutely. The crossover is a circle.
Yeah, it's a circle.
So kind of going into the music and the sound
Mm-hmm.
in this. This is where we get to the horror versus terror. Again, like I said, there's a YouTube video. Honestly, if you type in like Jaws and Nope
Mhm.
explained, I don't know, on YouTube something will come up.
Cool.
But they kind of talk about how the sound is kind of used in this because we don't get shown a lot of these things.
Mhm.
It's a lot of sound design. So even when we see this attack, right, we don't see the chimp
Yeah.
attack,
Yeah.
but we're left this idea of us filling in the blanks
Yeah.
on our own is way more terrifying
Yeah,
than seeing the thing play out.
Foley of what's happening behind the couch with Gordy is
It-
so upsetting.
It like my heart palpitates
Yeah.
every time. It's never stopped in this. Again, I'm like afraid of chimps, so that does not help. But yeah, so you know, the obscuring by the blocking and just the hearing, and again, the idea of terror versus horror playing on screen, much like yours. Like it's not as much as we might think, and I don't know if there was a place for it in this anyways.
Yeah.
It would have felt very off.
Yeah,
So
I think it would have gone back on what the film is trying to say about that kind of spectacle if it had shown us more of it.
yeah. Well, it would be showing us the
yeah,
spectacle, and that's the
exactly.
point, is that's
Exactly.
not
That's not what he's about.
Yeah.
Which also, just before we move on from
Yeah.
the Gordy scene, I just have to say
Yeah.
the child actor they cast. How did they find a kid who looks that much like Stephen Yeun? It was
when he's
amazing.
fucking, when they do the fade
Yeah,
and it goes
into
to his
adults.
face and,
Oh my god!
I know.
Like,
It's amazing.
That's
It's
it,
amazing.
truly eerie.
Yeah.
And with
it's-
the chubby cheeks.
it really looks like they just like AI'd did him, you know, put him in there. It was just
Yeah,
it
they
was
just like
Steven.
took Stephen Yeun's face and were like, "What if we just made it a full circle?"
Yeah.
Like,
Let's just expand this a
yeah,
little bit, right?
just more cheek.
More cheek. So kind of with the design of Jean Jacket's, like his sound design, obviously we have a lot of like wind noises that we hear, which again, it always leaves you this question of like, am I hearing screams?
Right.
Am I hearing the wind howling? Like what's
Yeah.
actually happening? I love the guessing that we're constantly
Yeah.
doing because it keeps your senses, you're so aware of what's going on. So
This also must have been just amazing to see in a theater with like surround sound, the
I
way
didn't
it
get to
like
see it.
whips over.
I didn't see it in a theater, and I'm so sad about
would
it.
have been amazing.
Because again, 2022, I wasn't.
Yeah, I wasn't.
I still wasn't
going.
ready to go.
No, my boss at the time went and was like, "Oh, you've got to go see this," and I was like, "I don't feel as safe as you do."
Yeah, theaters really spooked me
Yeah,
for a while.
me too.
Now they still like horrify me, to be
Yeah.
fair, post-pandemic.
Same.
But so on top of those wind sounds, sound designer Johnny Byrne, who we talked about, crafted this blend of trombones, peacock sounds, growls, a Moog synthesizer, and a kazoo. Which sound designers, man,
That's
how they
so
hear the
sick.
world
That's
is
sick.
so good to me.
Mhm.
So I kind of like love listening and trying to like hear how those sounds could be altered, and
That's so
I
cool.
need like 20 minutes of what that looks like. We also have some fun music facts as well in this. So in the movie, we see OJ and M listening to the song "Walk by Me," which has a lyric that tells the lyric and the story in that song tell the lover not to look directly at her. So we kind of get I had to cut all my foreshadowing, and I had to cut a lot of my Easter eggs because again the layers
Yeah.
get so deep. So that's one of those. When M is kind of like ringing the dinner bell, quotes like quote unquote, to summon Jean Jacket, she throws on a song called Exuma the Obeah Man. I hope I said that right. Where one of the lines in that song says the voices of many. So again, a nod to those screams as they're going past, which is like once you know that those are just
Yeah.
like people in there. It's on a ship. They're being digested.
Yeah.
Makes me physically ill.
It's so awful.
And for you, I didn't pull it in here, and I got to find the clip, but there is a clip of Jordan Peele on set walking that tube where they're digesting lays obviously horizontal, and they pulled them through, and he's just like casually talking about it as he's like, and it's such a cool visual image, but it's so gross. Anyways, so the Voices of Many, obviously directly related. And the song as a whole apparently kind of talks about, which I've never listened to it as a whole, and I did for this, talks about a mystical personality who can perform miracles. So again, the layer of that, which is what M and OJ are trying to do, is kind of capture this miracle. We obviously have the iconic basically Quint in Jaws moment where Antlers is singing Purple People Eater
so
song.
Good.
And it's iconic for so many reasons. Again, the delivery is so
It's perfect.
Quint.
Yeah, it really is.
Which again, that's such an inspiration for him on this. One of the people that Jordan Peele wrote the character to be a modern interpretation. So Antlers is a modern interpretation of Captain Ahab from Moby Dick specifically.
That makes sense.
Both of these characters, if you don't know, are obsessed with capturing this relentless creature of lore who kind of have become infamous for evading humans. So again, the just overlay of that. Again, kind of considering that Jordan Peele considered this film to be a mashup of Close Encounters and Jaws. That's where the Quint comes in, so that's a nod to that. And the foreshadowing lyrics in it, too. I think you can it's just such a funny song as a kid. I don't know if you were in this, but like music class as a kid, we sang that shit.
Oh,
like,
yeah, grew up with
crazy.
it. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. I don't know. We're years apart.
Flying Purple People Eater is timeless.
It's so good. Do kids sing that today? I don't know.
Do the youth know?
Do the youth know? Remy? Does Remy know? He's like, no.
It was such an evil chuckle.
A few nerdy sound facts I wanted to throw out there, which is funny because I just saw a TikTok about this. The actor and country western singer Sheb Woolley, you can't get more country than that, recorded the original song Purple People
I
Eater.
didn't know that.
He's often to be believed as the actor who originally recorded the famous Wilhelm scream.
That's wild.
Which is like, there is film history in itself. And I said, for those who don't know,
that's so the sort of thing Jordan Peele would.
It's a stock scream.
That's in everything.
That's in everything. And it's so funny because like 3 weeks ago, I came across a TikToker who like audibly will cheer in movies, like at movie theaters when he hears it. It's like his favorite thing to hear. Mine, I don't know what the name is of it is, but when I was a kid, I had this soundboard, and it was basically a thing if you flip a card over, you try to match, but it was auditory.
Oh, cool.
And there was one that had a baby coo.
Oh.
And that baby coo, since my childhood, has been in fucking everything that it takes me out.
That's so funny.
So bad, because I was like, that was on my little toy when I was like 10. I used to take that thing fucking everywhere. And I can't unhear it. So that's the scream for me. But I thought it's so funny that song and then the film history that wraps up in it. And lastly, like a little nerdy sound effect. The barbed wire we hear kind of like snapping around Angel, like in the climax, barbed wire.
Yeah.
Apparently, and again, not confirmed, like the alien sound effect, that kind of sound resembles the sound played by the alien ship in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So again, there's
gotta be.
I'm like, it has
gotta
to be.
be.
I don't know how much time I have. If I have time to go through Easter eggs, I don't have time. I do have time. I
want to hear them.
Okay,
please.
I'm gonna do a couple. You know what? Fuck it. It's our podcast.
If you want to turn it off, you're going to turn it off whether we want you to or not.
The Easter eggs are so good. So one of the quick ones and the simplest ones is in Jupe's office. You see the scissors from Us on the table. That's a nod to that. Through the midway through the movie, we see like the restaurant that they're at. It is named after Chester Copperpot. He from the Goonies. It was also featured in 2019's Us as well. So we have like some layer over that. And the TMZ reporter in this, so the motorcyclist, was given the name Ryder Muybridge in the credits, obviously Edward Muybridge is, of
Mhm.
course, the man that did the 1878 horse jockey thing. But Muybridge apparently was infamous, which I didn't know this,
Oh,
for
he's a wild
risking his
character.
life to take extremely dangerous shots.
Not only that, I'm pretty sure he murdered somebody.
That makes sense.
Like, I
In
think he had a
1878?
murder trial.
Yeah.
If I remember,
Who wasn't committing murder back
I mean,
then?
true. Okay, I could be totally wrong about this, but I'm just going to shout it out because I watched a doc about Muybridge a couple years ago
Oh,
when I was
funny.
working at The Reporter.
Oh, cool.
And if I'm remembering this correctly, I think that Muybridge had some sort of, like, tried to create some sort of an insanity defense based around the
Yes!
idea. Yeah?
He said, I have the quote.
Oh, thank God!
No sane man would have gone to the lengths he did to get a photograph.
Yes!
He claimed, and it talked about him kind of claiming this, I'm insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm
you're
so
right.
glad I didn't
You're
make that
right.
up.
Yeah, no, you didn't. So yeah, so I love that there's this nod. Again, we don't know this TMZ reporter's name in the film, but he's credited as a nod to this guy. It just will go to any lengths in the same way. And I just, again, the layers.
He also, his name is spelled in such a weird way just because he wanted to be fancy. Like,
it really?
Weird.
It's very, I kind of like it. But I'm
Yeah.
not gonna
Oh,
lie.
I do too.
But it's the same way people do like Kaylin, Braylon.
Yeah.
Lila. It's like, why are there so many fucking vowels in this fucking name?
he would have thrived as like a
Yeah.
1990s Karen.
He would have.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I also wanted to give one more nod in the final act of the movie. Obviously, M has that iconic slide on the motorcycle.
Oh,
It is
Akira.
an
Yeah.
Akira. And Jordan Peele said that it was one of his favorite movies of all time.
That
And he was
tracks.
offered to direct a live action version. Turned it down. Probably
Good.
because he felt like he couldn't do it justice.
I mean,
and I think he
also,
wants to do horror.
I don't think that should be made into a live action.
don't think
It's
so
meant
either.
to be.
I've never seen
anime.
it, but I just, from what we've read, because we played it at the cinema, I don't think so. Talking a little bit about marketing before we wrap it up with
Mhm.
audience response, which is very short in this one. After the release, the film trailer played at the Super Bowl at the time.
Ah.
And so people speculated. So it wasn't marketed as like, it's an alien movie.
Mhm.
We kind of, the mystery behind it.
Yeah.
But people automatically thought that because they thought NOPE was an acronym for not of planet Earth.
Oh my God.
Which I'm like, everyone needs to go touch grass.
Yeah.
Get out. Get out. As part
damn it.
Oop. There was also an article that Jordan Peele released to kind of create this buzz about like, this is real.
Mhm.
He did a Fangoria magazine article that was like the true story of behind the scenes of Gordy's home. And so in the article, he claimed that it was a real TV show whose existence was covered up by network execs. And
I love
so much.
him.
And he stated that all the cast members survived the attack, though many obviously would be injured by Gordy, but that Mary Jo Elliott was the worst. So he kind of created this real narrative because,
That's
again,
so
we've seen
cool.
the story play out
Yeah.
before. So I just love that he was like, this is cool. I'm like, what a nerd. What a nerd. So wrapping it.
Commitment to the bit.
Truly. The bit goes deep. 6
Mhm.
feet. Audience response and critics. It's not as... This got like hate for no reason, if I'm honest. And
I
it's
felt
so
like
they come
it did.
for no reason. So as a 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb, 80% tomato meter,
Okay.
69 from audiences. I said that's blasphemous.
Blasphemy. I feel like people were expecting more straight horror, and it's not
I think
trying to be
people
straight
were
horror.
like, Get Out, so good. Why
Yeah.
isn't it that? It's like,
Yeah.
just watch that.
Yeah.
Just
It's not trying to
watch
be
it.
Get Out. He made Get Out already.
Yeah, watch that film. If you like us,
Mhm.
watch that. So I think it got hate for no reason. This is where we come to. So it was a $68 million budget.
Mhm.
I kind of have, again, there was like discrepancy. So I'm hoping that's what the budget was.
Somewhere around there.
Do you want to take a guess at what it gross compared? So the other ones, it was Get Out was 255 million.
The other
Us was 256.
I imagine this did not do as well, particularly given post-pandemic.
That's what I think contributed
Um,
to this.
I want to guess it made maybe 100.
Better than that.
Oh,
thankfully.
good. Thank God.
171.
Okay. Okay. That's fine.
I think
That's
the
fine.
post-pandemic had a lot to
Yeah.
do with that. I think where we were really getting in this, like, I feel like theaters really started to get a comeback
Yeah.
around like the 2015, 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
And then, boy, did we crush that.
We sure did.
We're
mean-
trying to get back.
But
to
I
be
mean, think
fair.
about it. Like, you and I are movie people, and we're both saying neither of us were going to theaters in 2022.
Yeah.
Like, I just wasn't doing it.
Even now is hard for me.
Yeah.
Like, we
I'll
haven't
go,
seen
like,
Sinners.
every couple months.
I haven't seen Final Destination yet.
I tried to go and see Sinners, and the
I
projector
know,
was shut down.
I
and
felt
I'm
really
so
bad because I
mad.
really wanted you to like get me to like go out
Yeah.
and see. But
I
yes.
might try tonight.
Ooh,
I might try again
I know,
tonight.
I really want to see it. I don't want to see spoilers. But yeah, I think the post-pandemic aspect, I think that people kind of held it up to his own work, which I hate when people
Yeah.
do that. Stop it. Critics largely praised Nope though for
Good.
the ambitious scope, visuals, and obviously like the Jordan Peele of it
Mhm.
all. But like the overall originality, which I think is bullshit, and the like wait. They liked the overall originality and the
Yeah.
cinematic spectacle that he displayed. Again, like getting people out to theaters as much as he could.
Mhm.
But a lot of people didn't like the pacing and the character development.
See, this is where
that's
I think people
wrong.
are interpreting it as a straight horror, and that's not what it's trying to do. It is
Uh,
a character piece.
Again, if you know Jordan Peele,
Yeah.
nothing is just a straight line.
Nothing's
with
a straight
him.
anything. Yeah.
And then kind of just ending on this. So obviously we talked about Monkey Paw is doing
Mhm.
him. And the cast is like wild for me. Julia Fox. I've never seen her in anything, to be fair. Love her.
Love her. Love her.
Yeah, and Marlon Wayans and
Mm.
Tyreek Withers are in that.
Cool.
So he didn't direct that, but when it comes to like what he's up to next, I have a quote from him. Jordan Peele says, quote, "I will stay within this realm that I love, which is the only way I know how to view the world and how to tell stories. The world gives me so much awfulness to interpret, preach. So I'm always going to try and tell honest stories that give the audience a big show." So
that.
I'm so excited to hear what he does next.
Well,
I'm like,
I mean,
I'm willing to wait.
yeah.
Happy to wait.
Well, and I mean, if we think about it, he did one in 2017, one in 2019, one in 22.
We're like
Now it's
kind of-
25. We're right about
Yeah.
the time where I feel like we might get
And
some
he just
news.
drops shit too.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
but again, I'm willing to wait. I
Mhm.
do not care because I
Yeah.
don't want him to rush stuff because I love everything he does. But
Well, and also I know him was in production in like February of 24 was when I had friends working on that. So like he's had enough time now that I wouldn't be surprised.
yeah, that he's kicking this one out
Yeah.
to get the buzz again so he can
Mhm.
ride that wave. Ooh, I hope so. Yay, that's no.
Love
I had
that.
5 more pages
Oh
of things.
my God, I
that
want to read that.
I asked Trev if I had time and he shook his head no. So
He's like,
nope.
God damn it.
Ugh.
That was so
There's so many things
fun.
I know. I could like talk forever. Even speaking of Nope, the scene where
Yeah.
even Tui's in the car and he just like after everything he just locks
Yeah.
the door.
That was so funny. That's such a classic Jordan Peele, like the funniness of humanity in response to an inhuman situation is a lot of what I associate him with.
Yes.
And that was just like such a quintessential moment of that.
It's so good. I'm so glad you got to finally watch it.
So satisfying.
It's really
This-
good.
yeah.
I love this man.
Yeah.
I hope I did him justice. I was really nervous.
That was incredible. What a
Jordan,
what a
I
ride
love
you took me on.
Oh my god, where do we go from here?
I know. I just want to keep talking
I know,
about
me
them.
too.
I'm not
Yeah.
ready to
I
leave.
guess we gotta wrap this up.
Yeah.
I know we're playing.
Oh yeah. What are we doing next?
Oh my god, that's
Because
what we'll
it's
talk
connected
about.
to what we're playing. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you tee this off because
Our next episode is my birthday episode. I'm very excited about this. It took
you
me a-
are. I'm gonna be depressed.
Oh yeah, you all know
I'm
I
so
love
upset.
me some sad horror, and I've chosen 2 very sad movies. So I'm forcing Al to cover Donnie Darko.
Yeah, which is funny because I don't really have like a super connection or like. I watched it like once. Again, Film Bros.
Oh
really
my
made me watch
god,
it.
that movie
I don't
like
think I know.
was my
I
teenagehood.
don't think I got it. So I'm interested to see if I get it. Maybe I was in a place where I wasn't ready for it.
Oh, I'm so excited to
So
see.
yeah, but I'm excited to rewatch it though. I gotta say,
I like couldn't resist and did a revisit like 2 weeks ago and loved it even
yeah,
more
yeah.
than I remembered
Okay.
loving it.
I'm excited then.
It
that makes
it
me feel
held up
good.
for me. There's just so much to talk about.
Oh,
but
great.
the reason I picked it was as an excuse to let me cover I Saw the TV Glow because yeah.
Shame. I'm so glad because I had watched that not knowing anything about it before. I think because we came in and we were like, you have to watch this fucking movie. I didn't know anything about it. I just heard horror film. And so like blank slate on that one. That
Love.
destroyed me. So I'm like very upset at you because I feel like I'm going to walk away. The movie
they're
actually
both-
kind of hurts to watch.
They are both tragic. Although I will say, again, part of the reason that I'm covering these is because I'm obsessed with Jane Schoenbrunn. I saw the TV Glow in like February of this year. I'm like, it might be one of my favorite movies of all time now.
And oh, you're not gonna say.
I think
There
I'm
might
gonna
be a fun
announce it.
little
There's
connection.
There's gonna be a fun little connection that I reveal next
Yeah, like this
episode.
room.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
Knock on
yeah.
wood. But I will tease that the ending was originally going to continue on a little longer than it does in the
Ugh.
movie, and
No.
went to a different place. And I'll tell you more about
Okay.
why and what it was going to be, and it might change your view on the ending. But that's
It's
what
just
I'll
a
tease.
heart. It's so good. It's one of
Yeah.
those movies that like burned into
Mhm.
my brain so deeply, especially after I looked up about it after. I'm like, this makes fucking sense.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I knew it. I literally like was like, I knew it. There's
Yep.
no way. My gay little pulsing heart.
Oh
knew.
yeah, yeah. The gaydar goes off in that movie.
Yeah, but I love Justice Smith, right? He's the reason I watched it because he's in that show that I've been talking to you about, not Generation Q.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
he's in a TV show about high school.
Oh.
And he's
He's so
breathtaking
talented.
in it.
Just
He is.
incredible.
He's one of those actors too, like Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah.
He could just sit
And he's
entertain.
playing like the same character over like a 30-year age span too, and it's phenomenal.
It's wild. So I
Anyway,
hate you.
Yeah,
They're great movies.
it's
I
gonna
know, but
be-
I feel sick having to watch them. I hate it.
Well, and also too, like very tonally different than what we've done in a while. Because like we've
Yeah,
done
yeah.
a lot of straight horror and a lot of horror comedy. Now
are
we
the-
get my horror tragedy.
Yeah, I was like, it's the horrors of life we
Yeah.
get to talk about
Yeah.
with these. So,
And
we're
we're going to
playing-
be playing Donnie Darko at the theater. We're doing it as a Punk Rock Wednesday pick, the Wednesday before my birthday. So I believe it's the 25th.
25th.
Did we say? Yeah.
So
June 25th. So you can come see that at the theater with us. I will
Yeah.
probably be there watching it on the big screen because
yeah.
I was gonna say I haven't seen it on the big screen, but that's not true. We studied it in my cult films class.
funny.
So saw it
Yeah.
then. But yeah,
Yeah, those will be not fun for me.
I'm gonna have
I was
a
gonna say, those will be
great
fun.
time.
No, they won't.
yeah. Everybody's gonna be sad next time.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
welcome.
I'm gonna be real grumpy. That's gonna be tough because I'm in like my summer watch, and then you're gonna bring me right back to fucking like rainy fall, sad depression weather. It hasn't helped. I am depressed lately. So
Oh, great.
sweet. It's gonna be
Yay.
so
That's what I'm
good
here
for me.
for.
I'm just gonna be weeping. Other than that, do we have anything else? I don't
I think
know.
that was our only thing to plug this
Yeah.
time.
I think so.
Yeah,
Let's
I think
just,
so.
you know,
We're gonna call that our only
We're
thing
gonna
to
call
plug.
it. Just make sure to follow us on socials, Splice Splatter everywhere.
Call that the last plug and pull the plug.
Yeah, let's pull a plug. Thanks for listening to Splice Splatter.
The film
wait,
podcast
no.
presented by the Jean.
We gotta thank this one. Thanks,
Yep.
Warren.
Thanks, Warren.
Thanks, Trav.
Thanks, Trav.
Thanks, Theo.
Thanks, Theo.
Thanks, Siena.
Thanks, Al.
And with that, thanks for listening to Splice Splatter.
The film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where classic horror.
It's not a goer.
And until next time, we'll be right back.